Welcome to A Stab in the Dark, a horror movie podcast where we talk about a specific horror movie each and every week. Or is it 2 weeks? I'm not so sure these days. But we're figuring that out as we go. But this week we're joined by our regulars, experts in the field. We've got Mike.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Lovely. And we have Dave. Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. And you're a bit further away than normal because we have a special guest, actor extraordinaire. We've got Priya on the show this afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
I'm good. I don't know how I feel about the headphones.
Well, the headphones, it's all part of it.
I know. I'm not
fashionable.
used to it, but I'm in
Yeah.
it.
20
I'm in it
minutes
for the
you
long
forget.
haul. It's
It's
fine.
part of the podcaster look.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wouldn't look like a legit podcast if we
Yeah.
didn't have
I know.
them. So as you may be able to see at the front of the table, this week we're talking about Jennifer's Body. And what an interesting film. A lot has happened since its release in 2009. And this afternoon, we're going to be talking about the production, the writing, some of the context of the time when it came out and how Megan Fox was perceived at that time, the plot. We're going to go through that, give it a bit of a review. We've got the idea that it was mismarketed, the effects that had on the cast and the crew. We had, now I would say, a bit of a resurgence of Jennifer's Body and the feminism angle you can take with it, female empowerment, and then yeah, we'll see what else springs up in that meantime there. So let's get on with it and let's go into our general thoughts on the film as a whole. Let's start with a special guest. Put you on the spot, Priya. What were your initial thoughts of the film? Doesn't matter about outside context, just the film itself.
Well, I'd never seen the film before, so I went in with just a whole new outlook. It's not... It was not like the horror films I usually watch, so it did strike me. But yeah, I did enjoy it, but I'd noticed a few, because I couldn't help but think back to my time when I did my dissertation and things that kind of, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but like things with the Me Too campaign kind of stuck with me as well. So, but yeah, I found some comedic elements in there as well with, I don't know if that was intentional.
Yeah. I would describe it as a dark comedy more than it is actually a horror comedy, personally. Yeah. It's got the darker themes, but I think what it's trying to do is entertain.
It's definitely a comedy, right? It's a Diablo Cody movie. It's like its own genre almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Although it's completely different to Juno, though, isn't it? But
no, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like,
I'd say very different.
yeah, but I mean, really, like, all of the elements are still there, right? Like the dialogue is the same.
oh yeah,
Like,
it's still the kind of witty dialogue that she's known for, kind of thing. Yeah. Still getting used to the
It's a shame you're not known for witty dialogue.
I'm not known for not making noise on this
Okay.
podcast. Yeah.
Dave, how did you go with the film? Did you enjoy it? Is this your first watch?
No, I've seen it once or twice before, I think. I definitely watched it around the time it came out. And remember liking it, but being kind of underwhelmed. And didn't really think too much about it, honestly, until a couple of years ago when it got a massive resurgence in popularity. And I'm like, maybe I missed something. And so I gave it a second watch a couple of years ago. And definitely did appreciate it more. But I kind of had the sense that, in a way, I liked the idea of it much more than I like watching it.
Yeah, I've accused you of being a hater before of this movie. And it seemed like that's... I'll be interested to see if you're still a hater or not, but...
I mean, I'm the problem is, like, it's not that dramatic for me. Like, I like it more than people did back then, but I don't like it as much as people do now. I'm just kind of in the middle. And there are some elements about it that I really connected with, and I'm looking forward to talking about those. And there's a lot of depth to the writing, like thematically, and there's a lot to talk about.
Definitely one of the strengths, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the biggest strength, perhaps.
And so, I think it's just a kind of
Sorry, no. I just got looking at Mike for whatever reason.
with your male gaze. Did you learn nothing?
He's objectifying me. Yeah, he thinks I'm real life Jennifer.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like, it's a film that I enjoy talking about more, and also hearing people talk about. Like, driving here, I heard an amazing video essay, like really brilliant video essay about it. And I find like the discourse around the film much more interesting than watching the film itself. But that's just me.
All right, then, Mike, finally, how do you feel about the film?
I've only seen this movie twice. The first time I saw it was probably about 6 years ago, and I really liked it then. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought it's full of like quotable, fun lines. The writing is definitely one of the strengths, but I also think Megan Fox puts in quite a good performance, especially considering the fact that not a lot of people, especially if they haven't seen this movie, would consider Megan Fox as a particularly good actress. But she's definitely showing quality acting here, and I wish she had more roles like this. And I would also say the soundtrack is great. It puts it perfectly in that like 2000s-y aesthetic, and I love those kind of horror movies. You like Final Destinations, and everything 2000s-y about it is very very strong.
I have to say, I definitely had a bit of nostalgia for the time period as well when I watched it.
Yeah, as we grew up around that time period. Yeah. Okay, not as Americans, but we were still, imbibing with that culture bleeding over here.
And the films that came out around that time, this is different to some of them, but it has that feeling. You are straight into 2009, that late 2000s vibe with everything.
It lives and breathes it, basically.
And the band that are in it, the fictional band, which have some great music.
yeah. Well, they got a new fan from me.
Yeah. What did you make of them, Priya? Did you enjoy the music?
No. No.
Not your thing?
I was a very much One Direction girl back in that era, so
I see.
I was not...
You're not into the goth guys like that.
I can appreciate the music. It did sound good, but it wasn't... I was like,
I would watch a horror movie where One Direction did the soundtrack. That would be very interesting.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Can you get them together?
I'll try.
Bring them back together.
I will try.
Pester them on Twitter.
Hey, you never know. Film with Harry Styles, you never know. I can do it.
Let's have a look then at the production and the writing of this film. Dave, have you got any notes?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually relatively well known these days that the film was obviously written by Dabla Cody. And she wrote the script. She wrote the
racial
script.
Slur.
Okay. Pausing for the edit.
I think we should leave that in.
Old slurry day.
Pause for the edit. This needs to be cut.
Yeah, that's no good.
So she wrote it as a spec script, fresh off the back off of Juno. Her first ever screenplay, she won an Oscar for, as you know, which basically gave her carte blanche to write whatever she wanted. She apparently grew up as a massive horror fan, and obviously growing up as a woman, she always felt that the horror genre was about women. Even when it wasn't necessarily about empowering women, it was always about women. She felt. She was fascinated with the final girl.
I mean, the classic trope of the final girl dates back to the 60s. And even before that, usually they'd have a female main character as the main role in like a ghost story in the 40s, for example, because that was supposed to be... Basically, if you put the more vulnerable or quote-unquote vulnerable person you put in the main role, the more the audience is likely to feel a bit of fear about it than being in this scary situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, carry on.
And she was particularly interested in exploring female friendships and like the kind of perils of like being a teenage girl, and especially friendships at that time. So she teams up with I think it was Jason Reitman again, who was the director of Juno, and he produced this movie, and they managed to get Karen Kusama on board to direct. And I'm not super familiar with her work, but I have seen her film afterwards, which is called The Invitation. And that's an amazing movie. Like really brilliant.
That's really good. That's one of the best horror movies of the last 10 years.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. When she wrote the character of Jennifer, she apparently always had Megan Fox in mind for that. And it's very fitting, right? I mean, I guess we'll talk more about it later. But, it's very fitting that she was thinking of Megan Fox, because of how well the character of Jennifer parallels Megan Fox at that time. And a lot of this wasn't public knowledge at that time either.
Yeah,
right?
either consciously or like subconsciously, she may have been thinking those same kind of things. Yeah.
How did you find it, Priya, with the idea of Megan Fox in that role? Do you remember her from that time period?
I obviously just through movie like trailers and stuff like that. But from watching this film, I do think they made a good choice casting Megan. She does have this kind of like mysterious quality about her that is quite intriguing, enough to kind of like make the audience want to watch her and follow her as a lead. And I like the way that there was a consistency in the dynamic of for me anyway, the friendship between Megan's character and Amanda's, and how the dynamics were so different. You wouldn't put those two characters together. Normally you see friends just kind of, well, in films I've seen, they just blindly go along with what the popular person's doing, whereas Amanda was like, no, kind of ready to challenge it. So it kind of grabbed my attention for sure, to follow Megan a lot more in that,
because it's a subversion of a lot of things, and one of the things it is a subversion of is kind of high school culture as well, being as though it is this popular girl being best friends with this nerdy girl, basically two opposite tropes in high school movies at the time.
It kind of, there was a sense of security, I guess, for Megan until obviously it went completely the wrong way. But yeah, I just felt like she was really the best choice. She just had this quality about her. And like you said earlier, she put up such a great performance. I don't think anyone else would have brought that writing to life the way Megan did.
Yeah, because I think she, to a certain extent, she could insert herself into the role a little bit. And that's always a big plus if you can get an actor or an actress to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's something I go by, and I think it was Alan Rickman that said it. If you have to think about it too much, you shouldn't be playing it. And I feel like she just slipped into it, so it was just so perfect for her.
Yeah, there's something about Megan Fox, as you're saying, that there is that mystique around her. There still is, to a certain extent.
100%.
And I was watching earlier, there was a reel on YouTube, and it was about her sort of disproving some stuff, and it was one of them was like, no, I've never been in touch with the occult, no one's ever been in touch with me about it, I'm not sure this is real, because if it was, they probably would have been in touch with me. And her and Machine Gun Kelly, they've done some interesting stuff more recently as well. Their relationship it seems solid in many ways, and there's a lot of weird stuff they get up to. I'm not really sure what they do, but they talk.
I read something
She's very
about
open.
them. I read something about them staying in a forest and doing ayahuasca with local people in South America and stuff.
So it's quite a wild relationship.
Another thing that basically the way that the media presents Megan Fox is different from what actual Megan Fox is actually doing and being like. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. So I think we go into a bit more detail of Megan Fox at the time then, how she was perceived in 2009. We've already said, Priya, you said sort of what you had thought of her in that time period from the movies. Anything else to add to that? Any more kind of, what do you remember when you're growing up?
Yeah, she was
Megan Fox?
She was, obviously, when you're a teenager in that time period, there's a lot of pressure, like you just hate yourself anyway, and then there's Megan Fox objectified, and I feel like this was a perfect film for her to kind of go against that, even though it was, and we'll probably go into it later, how it was probably targeted, I felt like it was targeted towards men a lot more.
It was 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And it was like, why?
Yeah.
And it didn't need to be.
Do you think the film, you mean like the marketing of the film at that time?
Yeah. And and I think maybe the direction, I don't know who directed it, but the direction of the film as well, and costume, and it was just like, she's so much more than that. And I don't know if that's just me speaking as an adult now and looking at it in different perspective, but yeah,
the marketing especially is done for a certain male audience, like a teenagers up to kind of 25 to 30 teenage male audience specifically. And even the box art night today, you'll look at that box and it has things about her eating boys and like blah blah blah, and it's all very much in the vein of I don't know, the male gaze or some type of thing.
They're trying to fit it into the box of a lot of movies in the 70s and 60s where there was like a kind of sexy vampire lesbian for titillation in a lot of these movies, and they're trying to put it in that box, but they don't realize that because of what happened to Jennifer, she's using it as a weapon in her own, under her own agency. So it's actually a complete subversion of that, and to try and put it in that box is offensive, as if you haven't even watched the movie in the first place.
It's exactly like they didn't watch the movie. Wait, well, there's
It's
like the famous story where Diablo Cody talks about like an email exchange that she had with one of the marketers.
Oh, I've heard about
You've heard
this.
about this,
Yeah.
And that,
It was 3-word reply, wasn't it?
yeah, Megan Fox hot.
Yeah.
It's like it was meant to be in one box, but they were really forcing it into another.
Yeah.
And thank God they
Yeah.
had this resurgence, because now it's taken out of that box and hopefully put in the right one.
Yeah, it's quite bizarre because they clearly funded this movie or allowed this movie to be produced by a load of women, and then tried to force it into this mold of like a movie for young kids, as if it was like a young boys, as if it was like a Transformers movie, and Megan Fox is only in there for sex appeal, etc. And it's a shame.
And on that front, what do you remember, Dave, about Megan Fox in that time period? Seeing as we're all almost the same age here, the demographic they were trying to pull this film into was our demographic at that time period, where Transformers was coming out, was a time where we were that age.
Correct.
So,
We would have all been 13 when Transformers 1 came out. Yeah.
And there's always obviously some famous images that come out when you think of Megan Fox and Transformers. I think of her under the hood of the car.
Yeah, I mean, everybody thinks of that, right? That's exactly what I think
It's
of.
the iconic shot of that film.
Yeah.
So
Michael Bay's really creepy camera work.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
All of his
Right on her
movies,
belly.
and
Yeah.
that's an example of that. Yeah.
But what do you remember about Megan Fox in that time period? Put her into context for you at that time?
I mean, for me, I think I only knew her from the first Transformers film. And to be honest, I was pretty indifferent about that movie overall, and she didn't really blow me away. And to be honest,
Well, she wasn't allowed to act.
No.
really.
Yeah, of
She
course,
was
of
supposed to
course.
be a one-dimensional character.
and so at that time for me, she more or less was that shot of her under the car hood, when then that slow camera pan up her body was more or less all of her that I thought about, honestly.
and what about you then, Mike?
Well, yeah, I would argue that because of the way the media was in the late 2000s and for a long time before, that's all she was presented as. So I would have a hard time imagining a young kid of 13, 14 being able to have an alternative worldview
Yeah.
when all of the media is shouting in your face and giving you all these sexualized images of Megan Fox.
Normalising it as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
Acting like this is how women should appear in movies.
Yeah. That was fun.
A dark time. Yeah.
And it's interesting. I've done a bit of research, and I look back at that time. I did some Googling and some archive stuff, and I always remember there's 2.5 Men episode that she's in. Have you ever seen this?
Well, I've seen it all, so I've probably seen it, but I'm not sure I remember.
Camel Filters and Pheromones, the episode is called. It's one of the first series in 2004. And her character, Prudence, is the granddaughter of Berta, the housekeeper, and who she's keeping an eye on her, and while her mom isn't a very good mother. So she is 16 years old as the character. She was actually 17 when they recorded it. And for the whole time, she's dressed in skimpy outfits. She's outside the window cleaning in hot pants. And
that's the plot. That's where the
that's the
so-called
plot.
comedy comes from.
Exactly. And that's Charlie Sheen is on the piano, and she comes in, sits next to him, flirts with him. And he's like, oh, can't be doing this. And the two brothers, the whole joke of the episode is that they find her really attractive and they're trying not to give in to that urge.
Yeah. Such a powerfully 2000s plot line.
Very, very. And she is a blank slate. So the Prudence character is a complete blank slate of a character. She doesn't know anything. She's stupid. She's just attractive. That's literally the
Basically stereotyping her from what they see.
Yeah. And that is literally it. And elsewhere, watch some YouTube videos of old interviews. And she was on Jimmy Kimmel in 2009 and is the creepiest guy ever to her. Like the whole interview from start to finish.
Yeah.
Have a look at it. It's genuinely the creepiest shit. So Megan Fox, she explains that she was at Bible camp when she was 10 years old. They have to sleep in the same room as the camp counselors, but she says, we have to sleep with the camp counselors. And Jimmy Kimmel's like, what? You sleep with the camp counselors? And then Jimmy Kimmel says, what religion is this? Because I'm due for a conversion any time.
What the
She was literally 10.
Yeah.
Like she says in that one, she is 10. And there's another one on the same thing where Megan explains the first time she met Michael Bay during filming of Bad Boys 2. 15 years old at the time. And instead of, because she couldn't drink, she couldn't be at the bar in this scene with a beer or anything. So they had to, Michael Bay instead put her in a stars and striped bikini underneath a waterfall.
Yeah.
And so she makes mention of the fact in this interview she was 15 and in 10th grade. And it says that's the sort of microcosm of how Bay's mind works. Jimmy Kimmel replies saying, that's really a microcosm of how all our minds work, but some of us have the decency to repress these thoughts and pretend they don't exist.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's not really okay. Was that
What?
2009?
2009. Oh,
Okay.
there's one more thing
So
as well.
was it on the press tour for this movie, or was it?
No, this was during Transformers, because Transformers came out near enough the
Transformers
same.
2?
Yeah, Transformers 2. Sorry, came out near the same
Yeah,
time as Jennifer's Body. So there's a lot of parallels between those two films, and she always has to talk about Transformers in this time period before she talks about Jennifer's Body, and it's always the thing at the top is Transformers, even if it says she's got a new film out, there's this coming, and it's always that.
I mean, sadly, to this day, Transformers is her most famous role.
Yeah. And
Because Michael Bay is a big money printing machine.
yeah, exactly. But Michael Bay there's a lot going on there with that guy.
He made Con Air at least, but a lot of
Armageddon.
things about the person. Oh, I'm less keen on Armageddon. It's fine. I'd rather just watch a Deep Impact. But, yeah.
And so really that's a little bit of what was going on. I looked at some articles as well. So there's a Rolling Stone article, and the guy who was doing this interview at the time. So the thing is, Megan Fox draws blood. Hollywood's hottest starlet is a violent-tempered, insecure control freak with a tendency towards self-destruction and isn't about to put up with any of your crap. And then it just goes on to say things.
It's like a hit piece.
Yeah, well, she talks to him and said, now there's Jennifer's Body, which probably won't help any. If screenwriters Diablo Code his first post-Juno movie, basically just a teen comedy slasher flick with Fox's demon girl character chowing down on her horny high school classmates. She's got a few quiet moments in it, but mainly it's a good time exercise in bloodlust and lust, and an excuse to show more bared fox flesh than any other previous movie. It also features a tongue-filled girl-on-girl makeout scene with co-star, and yeah, that's kind of it. And but then Megan Fox in this interview goes on to say Amanda was not excited about having to do it, but went for it about the kissing scene. Clearly, I can't argue that it's not gratuitous because it is. We both look like children, so it looks like crazy kiddie porn. There's no music; it's just silence and the sound of spit. I feel weird watching it. It was really uncomfortable. I feel like I was witnessing something I wasn't meant to see. That's how Megan Fox said it at the time. Would you? How
it was weird watching.
Was it?
It was really weird.
Well, I mean,
Why was it there?
well, the thing is, the consistent story from both Karen Kusama, the director, who's a woman, and the writer, Diablo Cody, is a woman, is that scene was purposeful, and they weren't forced to put it in the movie. I mean,
allegedly it was toned down from what it was originally in the script, though, right? But it's there as like a sort of a moment between their two characters, because the entire movie's about their two characters, isn't it? It's not there for sexual appeal. It's there as to move, basically, reach an apex, a peak of their relationship.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. It's one of the most discussed parts of the movies, right? There's a huge like queer subtext to the whole movie, right? Which I guess we'll talk about later. But it's certainly, I agree with you that the whole movie is about their relationship, and yeah, as Diablo Cody said at the very beginning, that's what she wanted to explore was the friendship, the perilous friendship of teenage girls.
Yeah,
and so for me, that's the most important thing of the whole film, and for me, like since we're talking about it, the most kind of interesting kind of lens by which I look at the movie, and there are lots of ways to look at lots of things, and I'm sure we'll cover all of them. But for me, the most interesting lens that I kind of look at the movie through is the whole thing as a metaphor for outgrowing a friendship, right? And yeah, that kiss scene for me, in as well as meaning a lot of other things within through a lot of other lenses, almost felt like the tipping point in the relationship where Needy breaks away from Megan in that moment. It's like, because there's definitely an implied romantic chemistry between them, and definitely an implied infatuation, at least.
Yeah,
From Needy
like,
to Jennifer.
Sexual tension.
Yeah, but Jennifer, she essentially ruins it, basically, right? To oversimplify, and from that point onwards, that is dead. That there's no more of that from Needy, and it means a lot of things through a lot of lenses. Like I say, like there is the queer subtext, but also kind of looking at it, the entire thing is a metaphor for the end of their relationship. It's kind of a significant moment. Like the peak, it's the turning point, and it more or less happens just before the third act, right before the kind of climax of the movie. It's when Amanda Seyfried's character steps away from Jennifer, and then they're in conflict. Then
the relationship breaks down completely,
exactly.
and she begins to attack Amanda and the people she cares about.
But I mean, supposedly, allegedly, the kiss was always purposeful. Like I say, there has been a lot of discussion. But certainly the kiss was overexposed in the marketing, right? Like
it was allegedly half of the trailer.
Yeah.
When the scene must only be like a minute long in the movie, perhaps.
But it's arguable, though, if that is how the trailer went, then the audience intended for that, the male audience, are going to be very disappointed. So I can imagine that male audience were looking for more flesh. They were looking for more of the two, like undressing and stuff. So I would argue that scene actually is still potentially for women rather than men. And it's about that. And it's a discovery moment in a way for those two. And it's for, I guess, girls watching it who might be bisexual or something. They might well watch that and go, wow, this is something that is...
I don't think it was overtly sexual. It was more passionate and romantic until Needy pulls away.
Yeah, which she realizes in a way that...
No, I think the opposite, actually. I think it was completely sexual, and that's the problem.
From Needy's side.
Yes. Because,
there was feeling behind
that. Because Needy did have feeling. Again, like, focusing purely on, like, the...
But I think she only realized... Well, in my opinion anyway, she only realizes that because Jennifer's not Jennifer. And that's how she realizes it's not romantic, it's animalistic, because Jennifer as a character has turned into basically an animal, especially in Needy's like how Needy reads her.
Well, exactly. But like, it's because the kiss is animalistic and sexual. I mean, you use passionate, which for me I would say was more sexual than romantic. And it's because the kiss is passionate and sexual that Needy in that moment realizes that there's no emotional relationship there, right? And so from like, if you look at it more literally, that she was in love with her, then that's a tipping point for her character. And if you look at it more metaphorically as her realizing that person, that friend that she had when she was younger, because they've been friends since like they were like babies, right? Like really, really young friends.
Yeah, we see them when they're somewhat like toddlers.
Yeah, but and this happens, right? You diverge, and they've clearly diverged, and the friendship is quite toxic now, right? And so even if you're not buying into the kind of more literal representation of an unrequited love, then definitely is a representation of a final nail in the coffin in their friendship. That Jennifer is not the person that Needy wants her to be.
There's also an element of the fact how both women are affected by the male gaze, and they both acknowledge and believe to be fact that Jennifer is more popular and people like her more purely because she's more quote unquote sexy, and Needy admires her for that and looks up to her and thinks like, what's she doing being my friend when she looks like that, kind of thing. And I feel like that's part of what got her to a certain extent feeling infatuated. It may not have been romantic or sexual. It may have been a certain kind of like, I wish I was you.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. It works both ways. Like, if you want to read the queer subtext, it's definitely there. It's practically text. But also, if you want to see the whole thing as a metaphor, and that
it's interpretational.
Exactly. Yeah. And and if you see, if she previously saw Jennifer as kind of an aspiration, and now no longer sees her that way, and that's what that means, then that works too. Both readings work.
Yeah. How would you guys?
Well, from what I took from that, I felt like they kind of outgrew each other, but Jennifer wouldn't accept it. I don't think she wanted to kind of leave Needy, but I feel like Needy was outgrowing her, but couldn't break away because, like you said, they've been in each other's lives since they were like, what, 3?
Yeah, like she feels a bit trapped by.
Yeah,
the
and I've had a friendship like that. You feel like just because they've been there for so long, there's that loyalty there when. You growing
feel like
up,
you're being a bad
they're
person.
teenagers, they're confused anyway.
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah, and I think Needy did outgrow her, but she's not horrible. She's very much that good girl character. She didn't want to leave, but I think she was fighting one, loyalty to Jennifer, and then loyalty to herself and other people that she cared about. And I felt like that's the impression I got, that's what made her snap, like, this isn't you, I need to fight this.
Yeah.
And then it led to something
And it's all
else.
wrapped up in her own stuff as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's a bit of a crisis of identity of who she wants to be, whether she does want to be Jennifer, whether she idealizes that and that the effect that has on men, etc.
Yeah, I felt like
whether she doesn't want that. Yeah.
I felt like she did want to be Jennifer, and then when she broke away and was fighting Jennifer, she was like, "No, I don't want this." She came into her own. I feel like she had her own hero moment, as well as Jennifer having her odd little moments as well.
But then the ending is interesting, right? Because she takes an element of the demon at the end, right? So it's like she takes some of Jennifer.
She takes the part she wants.
She
takes the strength and agency. But she doesn't take
like the negative, like the toxicity, like the negative parts of that type of personality. Yeah, and she becomes like ultimately
stronger,
more empowered by the end. Yeah,
yeah, it's really strong when looked at as a metaphor, and I think it's I would believe that to be the intention because that's much stronger writing, and I believe that Diablo Cody is a good writer. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah, I guess for me, I can see all of that and I concur with you. But I also see an idea of maybe Jennifer wanting to...
Sorry.
It's all right. I also see that Jennifer might want to be a bit more like Needy as well. So in the other opposite way round, there's moments Jennifer is always trying to take Needy away in doing it. So the opening scene before she becomes this demon figure, she is going, let's go out to this bar. Let's go. Fuck your boyfriend. Blah, blah, blah. You know, it's us
she's
too.
trying to dominate her, isn't she?
Yeah.
Like, manipulate her into being her follower, her assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
in a way, I would say there's also a bit of jealousy on Jennifer's part. That Jennifer wants Needy for all herself. Like she wants her like as more than just a friend. I potentially see that it's reciprocal. It's not just the one side.
Yeah, like they're looking for something within each other.
Yeah,
But it's not really there.
And that scene where they kiss is actually genuine. Like there is a love there that they could be in a sexual relationship, not just a friendship. There could be something more there.
I think to an extent what Jennifer loves is how much Needy loves her, because it's touched on towards the end when they're arguing that she's insecure, and that's somewhat clear in the way that she treats her relationships and the way she talks about men, and she gets that constantly from Needy without the baggage of having to have a sexual relationship. She gets someone that admires her and looks up to her and adores her.
Yeah, I mean, 3 guesses. Who gave Needy her nickname? Right.
Yeah.
Like her name's Anita.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how common Needy is as a nickname for Anita.
Needy's just an interesting character name in general. Why is someone called Needy?
It is interesting and kind of works with the kind of like stylized.
I heard that it was left
teenager,
in there because it was basically put in one of the original very early drafts of the script that this character was going to be a needy person.
Right. Yeah.
And they moved us slightly a bit away from that, but kept the name. Similar to Jennifer Check was also just in there as a Jennifer Check.
Oh, right, really?
Yeah.
But I think it works keeping her name as Needy. Because it implies a lot about their relationship in the past.
Oh, and their dynamic as well.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And really, I mean, like, to be honest, I think my biggest kind of issue with this film is that everybody focuses on Jennifer, but I love Needy.
I liked her. I liked her as well.
She's actually the protagonist of the story, and and it's
she's narrating it.
Yeah,
as well.
she's narrating the story, and she's the one that goes through the growth and goes through the journey. I mean, okay, Jennifer does go through an arc also, but but Needy is the protagonist.
We
of the
follow
story.
Needy.
We follow Needy.
When Jennifer gets in the van, we follow Needy's perspective on that.
Yeah.
She is the protagonist, but at the same time, I'm on the other side, and I think Jennifer's my favourite purely because she gets all the best lines in the writing.
Oh, she does.
You're a lime green jello, and so on. Like, there's I can't think of a quote from Needy, but she's a better person, that's for sure. But she's not as entertaining. Yeah.
No, but her story is the most satisfying. Like, and I think that and like I say, like the main kind of reading of the story that works for me as like a man that can't fully pick up on all of the subtleties of the writing and really have to have those things explained to me. So the one kind of part of the story that authentically I kind of understood was this story of two friends that know each other for a long time and broke apart. And especially, I've been needy before. Well, I'm a needy person, I guess.
Do you need a hug?
Do you want a new nickname?
Please, yeah. But I mean, I've been in that position, and like it was very satisfying for me to see that character go through that journey, and then reach that point at the end that she did.
Yeah, somewhat cathartic.
Yeah, and
if you've ever been
then,
in a relationship like that,
and
a friendship.
And yeah, like I said, I mean, the reason I like that the most is because it's that kind of reading that is the most authentic to me, and the one I can personally connect with most. And like, there's so much more to it than just that.
That is what happens with interpretational things in movies. You see what's most relevant to you.
Yeah. But then by extension, then what happens to Jennifer is a metaphor for that the change that someone you were very close to going through puberty, for example. And so then the Needy nickname works really well for me because it says a lot about where Needy was in the past, and then you see where she is at the beginning of the story, and she's still kind of there.
She's a kicker.
But okay, that's the end of the story. the beginning of the film.
That's also the beginning of the film.
It is.
Yeah,
because it's a book ending. Like,
yeah, it's true. Yeah. But she's already breaking away, right? Like, because she already has her own boyfriend at that time, and Jennifer's already trying to like separate her from her boyfriend, like you said. And she's also trying to steal her boyfriend as well, which is interesting, right? It's about this possessiveness.
Later on in the film, where she's not really Jennifer anymore.
Yeah, but like as I say,
no, there were like subtle digs in my opinion.
Yeah, even
at the beginning.
And again, like for me, the whole thing is a metaphor. Like, and it's like she's still Jennifer when she's a monster. It's just the monster Jennifer of her becoming a different person.
Well, it's her perspective of her changes. If you're going to take the full metaphor angle, that's how she sees Jennifer.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. And so I like the Needy nickname because it implies to me definitely that it was codependent almost, but they're already breaking away at the start of the story, and then over the course of the events, that break happens completely.
Jennifer's a lot more needy at the start purely because she's trying to pull her away from her boyfriend and stuff.
Yeah. Actually, that's interesting. Yeah,
I did get the impression that maybe the nickname was a little bit of a projection from Jennifer. Yeah, like I need you, like. Or like
it should have been needful.
Like
truthful. Yeah.
It's quite interesting. Like I've looked at it through different lenses. I've not looked at it through this lens yet, with the idea of it being about friendships and stuff. So it's the first time I'm working my way through it as we go. But I can see where Jennifer is coming from, in the sense that like there is that jealousy there of her not wanting to lose that friend that they've had for so long. There's this idea of starting to have to share people as people grow older, which I struggled with a lot.
So you're a Jennifer then, not a Needy.
Yeah.
Well, to an extent, it's a duality of self anyway. Yeah. There's elements of both characters at the start, at least, in everybody.
Yeah.
And when Diablo Cody wrote it, she was basically it was a self-insert autobiographically, according to her anyway, where like her famous persona was Jennifer and her real person was Amanda.
So
yeah. Carry on.
So with the idea of it being about friends and not wanting to lose that friend, I do remember quite vividly being 18 and all of my friends growing up were moving away and doing things, including yourself, Dave. So I was sort of one friend sort of left behind because I was working full time. Everyone else I knew went to uni, and that was really, really difficult time. There's a lot of weird feelings, especially you're still a teenager. There's still a lot of feelings and jealousy as such in a way, and everything all in this horrible little like, oh my God, how do I deal with this? And it takes years and years to unravel that. And you got to remember these girls, I think in the film, were they 16, 17, something like that in the actual film. So they're even younger in a way, going through the idea that their friendship might be coming to an end, or if they're not going to be at the next level, they're not going to be in a relationship, whoever side that's on. So you can kind of see, I mean, I can see quite vividly now that being able to fit into how I understand the film as well. I think that's part of it and part of the growing up phase, which is quite universal.
Then it's interesting, right? Because then, again, like sticking with the metaphor, seeing the whole thing as a metaphor, then there's an alternative version of this film, right, from Jennifer's perspective that follows Jennifer completely.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because you see Needy have other friends, right? She talks to the emo-y guy. She talks to the jock guy. Mm-hmm. Jennifer doesn't have any other friends. I'm not sure outside of the murder we see her talk to any other characters particularly, other than the Needy's boyfriend. Which is quite interesting.
Yeah, it is.
There's a form of like isolation, a theme of isolation for her there.
I'm trying to picture it now, and the only time you see Jennifer talking to people is when she's trying to take them off Needy. She kind of picks people who are close to Needy in a way, like the goth kid from one of the classes.
Yeah.
It sometimes felt like they were a crutch for each other, because I know you don't see the parents in horror films that much, but it kind of felt like not only were they growing up together, but they were literally guiding each other. And I felt like Needy was very independent as well, and Jennifer wasn't ready. And I felt like that was a clash as well, and that was an element for the arc for Jennifer as well. Like they were fighting each other in very, very different ways.
Yeah, it was definitely a codependent relationship, probably even more so before the plot of the movie. And we know that Needy's mom works a lot and she's not around a lot. We don't see her very much in the movie. We don't see barely any apart from the end of Jennifer's parents, or mom at least. But it may be a mirror image, and maybe that's why they were dependent on each other. Yeah.
Do you not see the kiss as something then that maybe Needy has wanted for a long time, or that they both wanted?
No, I do think that. Yeah, like again, like either explicitly, romantically, or more metaphorically as like kind of like an expression of meaning in the friendship. But Jennifer, she kissed without emotion, right? It was passion, it was sex.
Do you reckon there was nothing on? I would disagree with that. I would totally see Jennifer as having now because she's just eaten and she feels powerful, that she finally has the guts to be herself in that scenario, that for the first time ever she's able to almost come out to Needy in a more explicit way.
Yeah, because it's quite interesting. We never really know, it's interpretational the entire way, how much is still Jennifer and how much is the demon or the succubus or whatever. Yeah.
And does it just allow her to be a little bit more confident and actually make that step to Needy where, there is something between them and it's happening?
Yeah, but doesn't that then make it worse if it is actually more authentic, but then doesn't give Needy what she actually wants?
No, well, that's the point. She pulls away going, oh my God, you've just eaten someone, or I just saw you down the road like covered in blood and now you're here. This is what I've always wanted. And so they can get lost in that moment of passion together, but then realise a split second later that actually, this would have been great before you had been killed and turned into this. This is what we both wanted for a long time. But
yeah, well, it depends whether you read it as a metaphor or not, because if it is a metaphor, then that is Jennifer she's kissing, and she's rejecting her because of the way she now perceives her. Whereas if it is taken straight, she is a monster now. Yeah, that's
it might just be that Needy wasn't ready.
Yeah,
was kind of in that place where then it's like, hold on, no, this is getting too real now, because it was getting a bit passionate.
Yeah.
So maybe it was just, I'm not ready.
and she was with it for a while.
And then she found an excuse, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, what you're saying is probably very true. Like, presumably, coming out of the closet is a difficult thing, right? To even probably admit to yourself. She may not even know herself, right, how she feels fully.
But they probably don't. It's probably still forming the idea of them being gay or bisexual.
I mean, Needy was just with her boyfriend, 2 weeks before?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you saying? Sorry.
Oh, no, just that. No, I was agreeing with you that, that is a pretty legitimate reading that Needy maybe just wasn't quite ready to accept that it was something that she wanted.
No.
Maybe everything was on the level and she was getting exactly what she wanted.
Yeah.
But just wasn't actually ready to admit that. That's also...
Again, it's completely ambiguous, especially if taken as a metaphor, the reasoning for the rejection. Yeah.
And this is why I can believe that the kiss was intentional, because there is actually a lot...
It's
genuinely
a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
I think where we started with that interview from Rolling Stone magazine, it's somewhat a bit flippant, like Megan Fox just saying shit because maybe that's what the mood she was in at the time. And she interviews. At the time she interviewed quite a lot with anyone and would say random shit. So in that article. She genuinely
says
would.
Flippantly as he's just someone for being flippant.
Such a Jennifer.
The guy says in the article, Megan Fox has been known to say a few things. She says she's a tranny. She says she's a bisexual. She says she has the libido of a 15-year-old boy. She says actors are the worst assholes to hang out with. They're either narcissistic douchebags or raging alcoholics. She says most men are weak like puppies. She says that her boyfriend's name tattooed next to my pie. She says all these wonderful, crazy things, which are most often accompanied by a picture of her in a bra and panties. That's how at that time, that's her perception, how she was perceived. And you can imagine she gets fed up and just wants to stir a bit of trouble in that because of her perception.
It probably is a fuck you to the whole thing.
Exactly.
Because she was miserable at that time, right? She hated working in movies at that time. And was probably just sick of the whole goddamn thing and was just saying shit.
Sick of the industry, sick of the audience, sick of the media.
Yeah.
There's a lot of if you've ever seen certain people being interviewed, you know that one day they might say one thing and they might say the opposite depending on mood. Some people are very toe-in the line. They have their PR department. And then you've got someone like Megan Fox who's just kind of herself and she'll let those moods say something. So Pete Townsend of The Who randomly does the same thing. So one day he'll say that their album was the best thing ever, The Who's Next was the best. And then the next day he'll be like, no, that was shit. I never liked recording it. I never wanted to be part of the band. I was better as a solo artist. Just depends how he got out in bed on that day. And it's the same in a way for Megan Fox, I feel it could be, because looking at all the different stuff she was doing at the interviewing at the time, a lot of these guys who were interviewing her were not looking at her as a real person. They're
how
objectifying
else was she meant to get control over anything?
Exactly.
They took it from her in multiple ways, let's just say.
And she's only going to be asked the same questions, the same inane sexist questions every time.
Maybe that was her way to draw up more questions, but failed.
There's a total infatuation with her youth. It's something that I've come across again and again in these interviews. So in that Rolling Stone one, she goes, she was never like the other kids. For one thing, she developed early, got a period when she was 10, developed breasts and started masturbating shortly thereafter.
What does that even matter?
It's just in the article because it's Megan Fox and there is this idea of youth and especially in women and sexual objectification. Yeah. And then you've got another one here from Wonderland magazine, also 2009, where the interviewer says, basically, when did you realise you were hot? That was one of the questions.
Well, they've been doing this for decades. They did this to Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, yeah.
And 50 years later, same thing. Yeah.
So in all of this research, it's just the same shit again. And then you got Jimmy Kimmel, even on the TV, you've got someone like Kimmel being infatuated with the idea of her being 10 to 15 years old and not denying those sexual attractions, actually going, oh, we just don't talk about it. It comes up again and again and again. And it was interesting. It's a very American thing, the way these interviews are done, because there's another one where she appears on Richard and Judy, right? Okay. And they treat her much more like a human being. I've put in my note, it's a relief to watch an interview where she isn't being totally objectified. And Richard Madeley asked her, about, well, this is in 2007, so this is July 2007 or so. I said Judy, not July.
It was in Judy 2007.
Now it's in Judy weather.
Oh no.
Anyway, do that again. So when she appeared on Richard and Judy in 2007, just when the Transformers movie, the first one, had come out, Richard Madeley says, "Oh, how are you going to come back when you become ultra famous? Are you ready for the oncoming onslaught of the paparazzi?" And she is very naive at this point. She's going, "I'll be fine. You know, I don't like going out. I'm boring. I just stay in. I have a boyfriend. They won't do that to me." And it's amazing to see her before that. But it's interesting that a man in Richard Madeley, who also says in this interview, "Oh, my son is exactly the same age as you." And they say, "Oh, you're very beautiful, but not in a sexual way, in like a way like a father
It's
would
just
say."
a compliment.
Yeah. And they both come at it from a completely different perspective.
Respectful.
Yeah, respectful. And it's not something you really see in American media. And Richard and Judy were obviously like everyone's parents back in the day on Channel 4 at that time. So it's just interesting to see how we obviously have our issues with this sort of stuff over here, but it's a very different Hollywood. You're in this little bubble. You know, we've seen Ricky Gervais talk about it in the Golden Globes, you know, about when he mentions Harvey Weinstein. Well, he was your friend. And,
Yeah.
you know, and and Epstein and everything like that. And it's a very, in this microcosm of Hollywood, and she was completely in that throughout this time. That 2007 is the beginning of that. And then it took her years to get through that.
Well, they're the people that made it that. So, of course, they're going to add to it and continue the mythos, basically, because it's making a lot of people a lot of money to give her this image and then put her in roles that exploit that image.
There's one more thing. No, because it's a picture he draws of them, right? So in this interview, there's a picture that is drawn. She grew up liking comic books and drawing pictures of comic book characters, and she draws a picture of Kimmel. So there's your picture of Kimmel that she drew, okay, for the camera. Yeah. All right. So Jimmy Kimmel.
Did she have a TV in her house when she grew up? She just hear him on the radio.
And then Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh, I've already.
Yeah. Jimmy Kimmel says, "I've done a picture of you as well and me together."
I've just seen it.
Right.
You're going to be.
Look at this,
horrified.
Dave.
That's disgusting.
Jesus Christ! Oh my God! You have to describe it for the people listening, Joe.
I don't know. Can I let the actor do that? How would you describe
God,
that, Priya?
it's fucking awful. It's what mums and dads do. Basically.
But Kimmel makes it sound.
The right way of saying it. She's drawn as if she doesn't even want to be there, and he's looking like Dan Schneider, trying to morph into her and melt into her. It's disgusting. They're in bed.
Yeah, under the
It's
sheets.
disgusting, and his tongue's like a snake trying to get into her mouth.
I've only just realised that's his arm. His hairy arm.
Yeah.
I thought that was
It looks like a big chicken drumstick.
Did she sign it? Did he make her sign it?
I'm not sure if she signed it or if that's him signing it as the artist.
Oh my God.
But I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
I'll edit this in, but yeah. I was pretty shocked actually when I saw that. It's just so blatant. It's just so disgusting. And she says just before this, about the picture, am I holding your penis? And he does this thing where
Probably.
yeah. Well, he does this thing where he looks at the painting and pretends to draw, miming it, and goes, "Well, now you are."
That's just...
So if you do want to have a look at this, it's Megan Fox interview on Jimmy Kimmel Live 2009.
That was all for research purposes, by the way, guys.
Yeah, that's the good excuse. That's the excuse to use.
Because it always works so well.
That's actually angered me. I didn't like seeing that.
No, it's disgusting. It's awful, isn't it?
I mean, disgusting's an understatement, which I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just the culture of like Girls Gone Wild and that kind of stuff entering into the mainstream and just being like the culture everybody says. Yeah.
What was that noise?
Wait for Mike to start talking to do that.
Well, fuck this, Mike's talking.
Are you done?
There we go. Yeah. Sorry, Mike. Say that again.
Well, it's in the era of Girls Gone Wild, isn't it? Basically, it's like.
Why are you happy about talking about this subject?
Because I'm just remembering being cancelled by your microphone noise a second ago.
Wow.
Silenced, as it were.
It'll be like,
just like Megan Fox
it'll be like
was.
Megan Fox was objectified in this photo. Wow!
But this is the thing, it's
Please
not a Girls
edit
Gone
that.
Wild thing, it's just boys being a certain way and throwing us.
No, but that's
like
the point.
that.
Like,
It's
Girls
just-
Gone Wild basically is like a microcosm of how men treated and thought about women at the time.
Yeah.
And they were just people to objectify, even if they're on the street or on the beach or whatever. Yeah,
Well, it still happens in our culture, right?
Yeah.
of course.
You will have probably experienced it much more than we have.
Every day. It's just like white noise now. Sometimes you just ignore it. I don't really look at people anymore. So, I mean, I couldn't deal with it on that scale. I was walking home with a bag of chips once, and he was ugly, by the way, and he just shouted, "So sexy!" And I was like, "Oh, fuck off!" Under my breath. Back to go into I put the code in to get the gate to get into my apartment complex, and he was just like, "Did you say something?" And I'm like, "Fuck off."
Yeah,
Like-
it's just harassment as well.
Yeah, I literally just said, "Well, did you say something?" And he repeated it as if it was a compliment, and I was like, "No, fuck off." Like, just get out of my face. I couldn't deal with it on Megan's level, so hats off to
It's
her.
just
for
somehow
still-
Yeah.
Nicholas Calm. Yeah.
So,
I mean, fame is one thing. Fame is a curse in itself, but especially if you're a woman, it's 20 times worse.
and that is kind of how the context of Megan Fox in 2009, this is how she's seen, right? This is on Jimmy Kimmel, who knows how many millions of people were watching it at that time. And these American audiences, she's on the cover of magazines looking very sexy. She's sort of 21. I think she's 21 in 2009. So she's at that age where that objectification is really going to kick up an extra notch, right? And because now she can drink too. So there's all things that they can bring up at the time
Yeah.
in these interviews and stuff. And you look at any interviews between 2007 2009 where she's become famous with Transformers. I mean, the objectification of the camera work of Michael Bay leads into real life as well. It's intertwined, the way she's seen.
Yeah, Michael Bay used to still does now, but not so much. But he used to do this thing where basically before you see the female character's face, you see their ass, like he comes up from the ground.
Right.
They do it in Transformers. They do it in everything in the 2000s by Michael Bay. Yeah, and he definitely wasn't helping.
No, he wasn't.
Let's have a talk about the plot. Let's go through it a bit. So we start with Needy. She's in an institution and in a little town of Devil's Kettle, and she's narrating the story as we go through. Needy has been best friends with Jennifer, popular, beautiful high school colour guard flag spinner, and despite the two having little in common, they are best friends. Jennifer often mistreats and dominates Needy, who is in awe of her to stand up for herself. Did you enjoy the opening scene, Priya?
Yes, I did. I love a bit of violence.
Tell us more.
No, I liked it because I love a good hook to a start of a film. So if it gets me thinking, how on earth did she get in there? I'm already in. So it was a strong start for her. Definitely.
You're a big lover of start at the end and then flashback
It's the
to how it
fact that she
started.
had slippers and she literally flung a woman across the room with her foot.
Yeah, that kick is impressive, man.
mate.
Yeah.
Balanced and nutritious diet. Fuck
She's
off.
a kicker. She's a trained killer. That's what that is. Soz.
Yeah. She's introduced as quite the badass, which is quite interesting when, for the majority of the movie, she's not a badass. So you do actually get a bit of foreshadowing of the fact that maybe she does have the powers, or maybe she's completely changed by the end, at least. Yeah.
I love that, the second it flashes back, she just has those those librarian glasses.
Oh, the thick.
Yeah. Like when women take them off, they suddenly
The
become-
stereotype.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a 2000s-y thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, I can't count the amount of Jennifer Lopez movies where she's
Yeah.
the dweeb with the glasses, and then she takes them off, and look, it's really attractive Jennifer Lopez there. Yeah.
One night, Jennifer takes Needy to a local dive bar to attend a concert by the indie rock band Low Shoulder, Dave's favourite band ever. A fire engulfs the bar, killing several people. Jennifer, in shock from the fire, leaves with the band, and even though Needy tells her not to, she's taken off in the van. Later in the evening, she appears in Needy's kitchen covered in blood and attempts to eat her chicken. Sorry.
That does sound a bit dodge. If you haven't seen the film, that sounds so dodgy.
Yeah, it makes it sound like she's eating a live chicken. Chicken that she's going to eat.
What we spoke about, it's like a euphemism as well.
It was the pause before chicken.
Yeah.
It's like she's about to eat.
I was trying to say
chicken.
I was trying to say rotisserie. I can't say rotisserie chicken. I cut out rotisserie. Sorry.
It was a rotisserie chicken.
Rotisserie chicken. That's what I thought was going to happen.
A rotary chicken.
She immediately vomits a trail of black fluid and almost bites Needy's neck, but retreats and leaves. This is also a very cool scene. I find it a really cool scene with the two of them, and
it was so gross. I loved it.
It was. There's like 3 or 4 like just play it straight horror scenes in the film, right? And that's the first one, and it's really quite effective when you it like cuts and then she's right in Needy's face. Can I ask a question about the fire, by the way? Did the band start it to like make?
Was it an electrical one? Because it went up something, but
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think it
know
went up
if
wire.
somebody started
it's
it.
up a
So was it
Catches
intentional?
fire on a curtain, and then
That's
all
what I
hell
was
breaks
thinking
loose.
further on in the film when they were doing the ritual thing. Like, did they set that up to lure her out so that she wouldn't have time?
Yeah,
to
because
think
he
about
says all
anything?
that weird stuff about like, oh, it's safe in the van. You should go with the van.
Oh mate, that's
Yeah.
the funniest shit.
He's with a whiskey, isn't he?
I love that. I love,
yeah.
the problem is like
Here we go.
No
Dave.
van is safe in America, guys, or ever, anywhere.
like
Go on, Dave.
they're horrible people. Yes,
But
it?
But you identify with the occultist crazy band.
I don't know. They're kind of likable. They're horrible, but
Do
they're
you
kind
like
of,
the music or what?
Yeah, I like the music, but like they're also like making fun of each other. Like the singer is saying that he's talking to the bassist. And he's like, I didn't even know you had feelings. Like, this is funny. I find it really funny. And they're kind of endearing.
they are comedic.
They're endearing.
Yeah.
Like,
but most of
they're
the characters
horrible. They're
are in
villains.
this movie.
I'm not saying that they're not. And obviously what they represent is, like, reprehensible.
Yeah. I like the bit where he says it's a Bowie knife. Ooh, Bowie, cool.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of, like, fun references like that when Chip is, like, talking about Phil Collins and
Yeah.
he's like, who? He's like, oh,
Yeah.
don't worry, he's just seminal.
He was seminal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next thing we see after the cool shot with Needy and the place explodes, the next day they go to school. Jennifer appears fine, dismisses Needy's concerns, appearing apathetic to the fire tragedy, and then goes on to seduce the football captain and lures him into the woods, where she disembowels and cannibalizes him. Meanwhile, Low Shoulder gains popularity due to their falsely rumoured heroism during the fire and offered to make a charity appearance at the school's spring formal.
I'd argue she's a lot more than apathetic. She's like straight up completely mean, like Whiplash style. That's why Needy's so concerned.
Yeah, like she spent the previous night like cleaning up all the blood that she vomited, and then suddenly, like Jennifer's acting like nothing happened.
Yeah, like it's normal,
Yeah.
as if it's a trauma response or something.
Yeah.
Can we give a big shout out here to the introduction of one of my favourite characters, the class teacher?
Well, J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
With a hook hand for no reason.
It reminded me of Malcolm in the Middle with Francis at boarding school.
yeah.
All I could think of was that character.
And he says something along the lines of like, it doesn't really matter who's a cool guy or
who's a hoe.
Who's a hoe. It's a great line. Yeah.
Amanda Seyfried's reaction to that is so good. It cuts her and she's like, it's so funny.
He's barely in the movie. He's got like 4 scenes, but they're all great.
They are all great. He kind of steals those scenes he's in.
Yeah.
Did you
He's
like his
got
character?
really good line stealers, like scene stealers.
Yeah.
He's really good.
They're straight out of like Mean Girls and those kind of movies, and it's great. Yeah.
And what did you make then, Priya, of the first cannibalization of one of the male characters?
I'm glad I didn't see it, because when I saw it the second time, I was like, nope. But there was that comedic spin on it when he's basically screaming and the head teacher's like, let it out, kids.
No,
Let it out.
Yeah.
It's
Another
like,
great J.K.
bro,
Simmons moment.
go and investigate. The one time they don't investigate.
And then he like finds the body and he's like, Jesus, Mary and Joseph or something like that.
But yeah, it was a good example of light and shade in something like that. I quite liked it. And that sounds weird in a horror film to say
It's
like
tongue
it,
in
but
cheek.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a lovely bit of contrast, and that's a lot of how comedy horror works and dark comedy
It
works.
shows that real life element as
Yeah.
well, because why would he know what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just been a tragedy, but it was nothing to do with murders, right?
Yeah.
He wouldn't have murder on his mind.
No, he wouldn't
No.
have cannibalisation on the mind.
No.
On school grounds, doubt
On
it.
school, especially
Outside of school, that's fair game.
normal,
Yeah.
at it.
Not
Not
at the
his
school.
business outside of school.
Yeah.
It's a real doozy outside of school these days. Cannibalisation.
Yeah.
On the streets.
Keep
Oh,
the
mate.
cannibals out of the school.
Yeah, you know, before Mike, you said Needy didn't have any good quotes. By the way, she has one around this point when she's
Right.
she's talking to Chip and trying to say like something's weird with Jennifer, like something's off, and then she like tells Chip what happened, right? And then she got taken off with a van,
Mhm.
and then Chip's like, "Oh, did you get the make and model?" And then Needy's like, "I don't know, an '89 rapist."
Yeah,
love that.
that is good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And yeah, she does have a few good lines.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
one where she's like, she's not high school evil.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
actually
yeah,
evil.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, a month later, Jennifer appears sick and listless. She accepts a date with the school alternative / emo Colin. I didn't write this. Wikipedia
Oh, yeah,
did this.
Colin.
Yeah.
Colin.
Oh, poor Colin. Who she invites to an abandoned house, which reminded me of what's the film? Don't Breathe.
Is that the film you're talking about? Don't Breathe.
Yeah,
is
Don't
a
Breathe.
film.
Or you telling Mike to not breathe.
Don't
What?
please tell me what the song is. The movie is. Yeah.
Answer without breathing, Mike. Go.
You said it with a question mark.
Yeah.
I was confused.
It was definitely "Don't breathe?" Question mark.
Yeah. I'd argue like 3 question marks after that bad boy. Yeah. It
I'm
reminded you of
starting
Don't
this again.
Breathe.
Oh, no, it's good. It's good. Keep it in. So you know that the band gets famous.
Yeah.
Like they become their song becomes like the anthem.
Of the tragedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the ritual was a success for them?
Yes,
Yeah.
I reckon it's successful, but the issue is because of the impurity of the subject that they killed.
It wasn't that successful.
Well, it's successful, but it also brings back this demon creature.
Like a succubus.
Yeah, succubus.
Yeah,
but
it circles back round to them like a monkey's paw kind of thing because they didn't do right, I guess.
Is this around the time in the film as well where they have the funeral for the jock?
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Shortly following on.
that scene is amazing. That whole
It's
scene is
tragic, isn't it, actually?
Because they more or less play it completely straight. Like the mother is brilliant in that scene.
She's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, it starts off somewhat comedic with
Does
the
it?
sort of emo characters going, "Oh, you know, I'm never recovering."
Oh,
the
yeah.
things they say, and then the actual you get real pain and that really guttural pain of a mother losing their child. That's a real tragedy.
It's actually more impactful when they kind of lead you in with a little bit of comedy and then
Exactly.
they hit you with that. Yeah.
While Needy and her boyfriend Chip have sex, Needy senses something dreadful has happened and has a disturbing vision of a demonic Jennifer. She flees back home, but on the way, she is accosted by Jennifer, who was drenched in blood. After making it home unhurt, Needy finds a revitalized Jennifer in her bed. Jennifer attempts to seduce Needy by kissing her. Needy initially reciprocates, but then comes to her senses and demands an explanation. We won't go too far into that the
We've
kissing stuff.
already-
We've been
Yeah,
there.
we've been there.
Wait, can I ask a question though before we carry on? Just about the her like kind of like connection to Jennifer, like that supernatural connection. Does that mean anything to you? Like, what do you think about that? And also a second question. Earlier, the mother, she's like worked nights and she wakes up in the day and says she's had a bad dream. Do you think that's like supposed to imply like that she also has?
Yeah,
power?
it's interestingly supernatural, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how it ties, especially the mother thing, into any kind of metaphor. It's almost like a played straight supernatural
It's just kind of part of it. It's
Psychic.
just kind of what it is. Yeah.
shenanigans that family's got going.
I mean, in a way, it wouldn't make a difference to this film, I think, if the mother didn't ever make an appearance, because she didn't really any other time.
No.
There's hardly in it. It's such an insignificant part. It's a bit like the father in Pride and Prejudice. They don't do anything at all to impact the story. It's such a...
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if they needed to edit this movie for time, they'd probably get rid of the mother entirely. I'm not sure it really adds that much to the
Maybe
plot.
it's just showing the link, because normally in a horror film it's like the parent gets the visions because they've got that link, but because they were so dependent on each other, maybe like Needy was the mother figure that Jennifer kind of had to go to for advice and stuff, despite doing her own thing.
Yeah, maybe
just
there's
to
a
show
parallel there of like,
that they were family to each other and that was it.
yeah, the mother being so concerned about the child that she has a dream of the child in danger, and Needy has the same thing, but it's not about a child. It's about her.
It's about her. It's about her child. Yeah,
with.
like you said. Yeah, it's like that surrogate relationship, basically.
Yeah.
I like in this that they say it in that 10-year anniversary with Megan Fox, where they talk about Chip saying, "Is he too big?"
Oh, yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, he's having like a nightmare vision.
Yeah, he's like,
no, she's just traumatized right now at 8.
Yeah.
Don't gas yourself up.
But it's also the But it's that idea that he thinks it's something to do with him. It's always through that male perspective.
It just shows how oblivious he was to her.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Do you think he was a bad boyfriend to her?
I think he's kind of an asshole. He's not as much of an asshole as in Midsommar.
He didn't want to share her. And I feel like Jennifer was like, I don't want to share you with him because he's an arsehole. And in that moment, you think a guy's meant to be attentive and present, and he wasn't. So I think it just shows that, Yeah,
but like, was he supposed to assume she was having supernatural visions?
He wasn't even looking at her.
That's-
He'd see the horror on her face otherwise. He just went with it.
And a lot of the times throughout the movie, he's as combative and about Jennifer and possessive of Needy as she is. So
I actually quite like Chip. I have no real thing against Chip.
He's all right on his own. On his own.
yeah, well, he's a good character because he's got some funny moments. But
He's like Jello,
as a
remember?
person-
Yeah, he's like Jello.
yeah.
He doesn't even
Doesn't
know
even
he's
know
like
it.
Jello.
I do reckon though that Chip is quite a innocent character. I think the line where he says, "Is he too big?" is delivered so innocently, like, "Oh my god!" And he's not ever meant to be a character that is too combative to the main.
Well, he's immature, isn't he? He's like a young, naive boy kind of thing.
Yeah, he gets kind of like he gets jealous of like the band. Doesn't he?
He's
Like,
got somewhat
poses.
infantile ideas about his relationship.
Yeah, and he gets jealous of the emo guy as well, saying like, "I can be that deep too," right? Like he does that.
Yeah.
That's what teenage boys do.
Yeah, it's normal. Yeah.
It's what teenagers do in general. Like, there's an idea almost that it is Jennifer is quite jealous of him, and he's quite jealous of her. They're always trying to get Needy's
like
appreciation.
tug of war,
It is a tug of war between them. Yeah, absolutely. And this is where Jennifer and Needy are in bed together, and she now tells the story. So we finally see what happens in that night. So Jennifer reveals that Low Shoulder, the band, had taken her into the woods after the bar fire and offered her as a virgin sacrifice to Satan in exchange for fame and fortune. Although the sacrifice was a success, Jennifer was not a virgin, so she became a permanently possessed
Succubus.
Succubus, yeah. She becomes hungry, and poor old Ahmet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's an
Survives
innocent
the
man.
fire.
That
That's
was an innocent soul. He did not deserve that.
Yeah, poor. Where was he? Where was he from? India.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
The fact that she was like, "Does anybody know you're alive?" Like, babes.
Yeah.
That's like, we know what's going to happen now.
Should always say yes. Always say yes if you get asked that question.
I think he didn't understand what she was saying, so he was just like,
well, you wouldn't expect a succubus to be the next person you see.
It's another good horror moment, though, like straight horror moment, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, they played that whole sequence straight, and like, it's like the dynamics of the band as well. They're kind of like joking with each other, and then they're almost not taking it that seriously.
Yeah,
and it makes it way worse. Like it makes
she's
it
like
much
a commodity.
so much more sinister as well.
It's way worse.
It's just a tool or an ingredient.
Like the banality of it for them, like it's nothing. Like, do you get the sense that they've done it before, or is
No.
They probably talked about it before.
Yeah.
I mean,
they've probably been horrible to women before.
Yeah, well,
they may not have
sure,
done it in this particular way.
but I like the exchange between them in the van when Jennifer gets in. I think when Needy looks at her in the van, Jennifer comes to her senses somewhat and goes, "Oh Christ, what am I doing in this van?" Because she's in shock when she goes into the van. And
that shot is amazing.
It's a great shot.
They look at
it's
her
tragic.
just before they shut the door.
It's the last time you see
haunting.
her.
That's the last time you really see Jennifer.
Exactly. It's the last time you see Jennifer as Jennifer. Until obviously this bit here where we could do a flashback. But within that, Jennifer says in there, "Oh, you guys going to rape me?" And one of the band goes like, "No." Like we're not rapists.
Like we're not like that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We would never take
like
it that far.
Offended by the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then she goes, I'll do anything. I'll follow you. I'll be like a groupie for you guys. I'll do whatever. And they're like, do you know, this is where it gets comedic as well. This is where the horror and the comedy blend really well, because it's like, do you know how hard it is for an indie band to get big these days? That's quite funny, but it's within this horrific context.
I mean, that's my favorite style of comedy. It's black as fuck. Like, it's funny, but like the context makes it so dark.
That's why I would argue it's a full-on dark comedy, this movie, and it excels at that,
And Jennifer is a victim throughout all of this movie, but the bit where she kills Ahmed does slam it home to you that although, yes, most of the time you can be on her side with a lot of this stuff, but with that character, he's a poor defenseless. Doesn't probably know much English.
Well, this is like the fact that he's the most innocent character, I think, is very important, because I mean, really, she only targets reasonably innocent people, but the most innocent one is the one that she targets first.
Yeah.
Because I mean, as you said, right, it's a traumatic experience. She's a victim of trauma.
It's misplaced rage and revenge.
You pay it forward. You don't get revenge. It's if you're a victim of abuse or of trauma, you normally pass it on. And to other people that are innocent of it. That's normally how it goes, right? And that's what's happening there. Like, she's not herself getting revenge against the people that did it to her. She's just passing it forward and just giving more trauma into the world to innocent people.
The cycle of pain continues.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. Actually, before we go on, I just I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but like the sacrifice sequence when Megan Fox was talking to Diablo Cody in that reunion interview a few years ago, she said Megan Fox, who incidentally is a very eloquent interviewee. Yeah. When she wants to be, like, I think,
she is.
It was about really quite smart, genuine woman.
It was around about 2019, I think, that interview. Something like height of Me Too.
Yeah, the 10-year anniversary one.
Oh yes, I think so. Yeah. And she was saying, and it's really stuck with me, that she said that scene.
Sorry, I knocked the mic.
I mean, obviously that scene has sexual assault connotations, obviously, but her reading of it was so interesting, which is that she saw it as like the abuse that she'd received from the studio system at that time. And it just literally floored me. I had to like pause the interview and I was like, Jesus Christ, because I never would have read it that way. And then, she does then go on to talk about, how she felt at that time, which I didn't know about before either. And it was just like, it was just like the serendipity, of casting Megan Fox and just how well she fit that role of Jennifer in a way that nobody even knew.
Yeah,
at that time.
I feel like a woman would know when another woman can play something like that. And I'm not taking a jab at men here. I just think we're wired so differently to read things. I feel like only a woman could pick up, okay, you kind of know.
Studies do suggest that. And I guess for a woman to basically try and empathise with Megan Fox at the time, it's much easier than for a man to see a woman that's playing an image because she has to and probably doesn't want to, but is forced to. Yeah.
We'll circle back round to this in more detail in a bit. So this is where Needy becomes more proactive in the story. She goes to the school libraries who's got a cult section.
Oh, the classic research
really small.
montage.
Why was that section in a school library?
Okay, here's the thing. This is...
Why is it not in all school libraries? That's the real question.
I was looking around, and I couldn't see that any evidence of this specifically, but I feel like Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a massive influence on this film, right? Surely. And like this like library research montage in the occult section. I mean, come on. It's so, and the whole like third act, once Needy starts to become empowered and starts to fight back, it feels so much like Buffy the Vampire Slayer to me. The school setting as well.
Yeah, it's like Heather was saying in the interview as to how it could be continued in a TV show.
As a TV show, yeah.
And that TV show with a super powered up Needy would be very Buffy.
Yeah,
and probably quite good if it's
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
Then Needy tells Chip about Jennifer and her discoveries that she is a succubus. He does not believe her, so she breaks up with him in order to protect him. Jennifer intercepts Chip on the way to the school dance and lies to him, saying that Needy has been cheating on him with Colin. She takes him to an abandoned pool and begins feeding on him. Needy arrives and Chip impales Jennifer through the stomach with a pool skimmer. Jennifer escapes and Chip dies.
No, Chip.
Poor Chip.
No, I was sad about Colin. Colin's
But
my
not
boy.
Have you ever watched Veronica Mars?
No, I need to watch that.
You should
though.
watch it. But that actor's from Veronica Mars, and he's really good. Really
I'm
good.
gonna
in
watch
that.
it.
Yeah. But yeah, so apparently they were filming in that pool for like 3 days.
Really?
Yeah.
God.
But so the shot where Jennifer, she's levitating. It's so good. It's
Yeah.
so good. Because they use like a mix of like practical and CGI.
It's like a
right?
crane, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
and
it's
but
like
you
a
can
type
tell
of
it's
crane.
practical, and it just looks
Yeah,
so
yeah.
good. It looks so good.
What's the line? Oh, she can levitate? Oh, it's not that
she-
impressive.
She
Yeah.
can fly.
Yeah,
she's only
she hover.
levitating.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's only hovering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where they're kind of toxic. The way their friendship has become toxic is right on the surface.
Yeah.
With a reply with Jennifer saying, was it along the lines of
Well, it's
why
why
you
you
always
attack
un-
everything
Yeah,
I
that's
do.
yeah.
And then they talk about insecurity, and it's just basically like a full-blown argument at that point.
I did quite like that moment because it was like Jennifer came through,
Yeah.
like the actual Jennifer, and then
But
She's
it's quite cathartic to see Needy like fully expressing herself in the moment as well, I think.
I liked Angry Needy.
Yeah.
I liked it.
For sure, man. I love it.
Well, it's kind of foreshadowing to how she'd become when she's in the asylum and stuff, right?
Oh yeah,
The
she was
powers.
just done. She was
Yeah. She became a Don, yeah.
yeah.
Angry and heartbroken, Needy breaks into Jennifer's bedroom. The two fight, and Jennifer bites Needy's shoulder in the struggle. Needy rips Jennifer's best friend necklace off her neck, and that's the moment where she slams back down onto the bed, isn't it? Where Jennifer kind of comes through and goes, "Oh my!" Like it's a moment of friendship,
Somewhat
done over.
humanity coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the idea that because we've gone into their friendship and the ending of it, and that is, I think, her moment of
Realization of what part she's played in the ending of the friendship or the closeness between them. Yeah.
and that's where Needy then comes back down on top of her and then stabs her
In the heart, right?
in the heart
Or in the tit
or in the tip.
before it gets corrected to the
Heart.
Yeah.
It's the heart, man.
Yeah.
Not the tip.
Only
got
quote
in
in the
the
movie.
Jennifer's mother enters and finds Needy on top of her dead daughter's body. Needy is brought to an asylum. She now manifests some of Jennifer's supernatural powers due to the bite. She escapes the mental facility and hitchhikes a ride, telling the driver she is following a band. And then during the credits, you see Low Shoulder and the crime scene photos that they've all been murdered in
So
her
she's
hotel.
getting revenge. She's not passing it forward.
Mm.
There you go. You got
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
wanted.
exactly,
You got what you
exactly.
wanted.
It's so satisfying. It's so satisfying. This is why Needy is the best character.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
she brings the catharsis. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? So I just might miss like exactly what happened at the end. So Jennifer's mum saw Needy kill Jennifer.
Well, she walks in with her on top with the
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
the
there's
knife
nobody
in
else
hand.
in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then she goes to the mental asylum.
Well, she gets arrested, doesn't
She gets arrested.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
she goes to the mental
Then
asylum.
she'll be in a mental asylum.
So then does she put herself?
Well, it's not even an asylum, isn't it? Like more of a women's prison.
I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
it's a
a
prison.
Yeah, I
It's a prison.
yeah,
It's a prison.
she's just in a
Prison.
cell on her own because she gets put
Yeah,
in
so-
isolation.
Yeah, she
For all the kicking.
she does the kick, does the kick in, puts herself in isolation. So does she put herself in isolation so she can escape and then kill the band?
I think so.
I just
Yeah.
don't think she
Yeah, I
wanted to
presume
follow
so.
a well-balanced diet. She didn't want someone coming up to her saying, oh.
Nobody is going to tell her what to do anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, we're right.
And that's the end of the story. It's
Yeah. I like that the
Great. Yeah, that's the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
the driver that picks her up is
Oh, Lance
played by
Henriksen.
horror legend Lance Henriksen from many a B movie, but also Aliens. Yeah, and then also, did you notice
Terminator.
Chris Pratt right at the start?
Yeah.
Yes,
No,
I
I didn't see that.
He's got about 3 lines.
Really?
And it's
Yeah.
amusing. Yeah.
I like that Jennifer calls him Gomer. That just cracked me up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're actually referring to Full Metal Jacket or not, but it's just a funny name either way to just call someone Gomer. It's just
Yeah.
funny.
I presume so, unless that is actually his name in the I didn't look up.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Did you like the film overall then, Priya? We said at the beginning. Any other things to add on to after going through the plot?
No, it was all right. It's not my usual horror film.
Yeah.
Like I said, I agree with Mike. More of a dark comedy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But under the lens of a dark comedy, I think it succeeds very well. Yeah.
But that is something that they struggled with actually going into the movie, wasn't it? Because the people that they put in the to watch it.
The sample marketing.
the sample marketing.
The test screens. Yeah,
they weren't primed.
Oh, she said
it
was like half people who watched Juno and then half kind of frat boys.
Yeah,
it was a wrong audience altogether.
Yeah, completely wrong on both counts. Yeah.
So those expecting Juno got this
They were
horror
horrified, apparently.
And the frat boys did not get enough flesh, and Megan Fox
The
being
writer
sexually
said
suggestive.
in the 10-year interview, she was like, she still got the card. It says needs more boobs, but he was so dumb. He spelled
With the
it
W.
BEWBS.
Yeah. But that's the horrifying thing about that is that they listened to that, though. The marketing department listened to that and went with it.
Well,
Clearly, it was all men.
yeah.
The wrong kind of men.
Basically, if they advertised it as like a crossover between Heathers and Ginger Snaps, which basically it is, it would be immensely successful.
So the Ginger Snaps thing is pretty controversial, right? Because it's super similar to Ginger Snaps.
Very similar.
Very similar to
and Ginger Snaps is probably the better movie.
Definitely the better movie.
Probably.
Definitely. Yeah, but apparently, like, it's never been officially like acknowledged as a homage or like it's
influence.
very similar to Ginger Snaps.
Yeah.
So give us just a quick breakdown, because I'm sure I don't really know. Do you know about Ginger Snaps?
No.
Go on, Mike. Give us a quick breakdown.
Two female best friends.
Are they sisters?
Are they sisters?
I think so.
They might be sisters. It's been many years since I've seen it.
Rest in peace.
One of them's bit by a werewolf and becomes a werewolf and becomes slowly more monstrous as it goes along, killing people, etc. And it strains their relationship.
Yeah, so they're
and
like,
you can clearly see from that brief description.
That is very because they're both like outsider. They're both outsiders. They're like into the occult. They're kind of weird. But then the I think the older sister gets bitten by a werewolf, and it's like it's a metaphor for puberty, and she starts dressing more sexily, and she starts like hanging out with the popular kids and like trying to have sex all the time, and then it's like about the divergence of the two sisters that were previously very close.
It's very similar themes.
Very similar. Yeah.
Interesting you mentioned that, because I was looking earlier at reviews from the time period. Not all of them are actually. It's panned critically, but there are some critics out there with a bit more smarts. And I was looking at one from Mark Commode, who says, he starts it off with, "If you can get over that Megan Fox is a schoolgirl," and he says, "I can't believe I'm having to say that." Like he doesn't like the idea of it, but he says it's influenced by Slumber Party Massacre, Happy Birthday to Me, Carrie, Prom Night, and he said the biggest influence, Ginger Snaps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and he brings it down to saying that it's a film about teenage rage, emerging subgenre of hormonal horror. So, and you get Simon Mayo going hormonal horror. So you're going to say sci-fi next to comedy horror, next to hormonal horror, and it's this
next to archaeological horror.
Yeah. So what you're saying is me and Mark Commode have got a lot of things in common with the way we talk about genres.
Honestly, I buy into hormonal horror way more than archaeological
horror. Yeah, only because Commode said it, you like little snob.
Another one, and this one's like officially confirmed by Dabler Cody, was The Lost Boys. Again, very similar, right?
Yeah, the puberty angles also there.
Hormonal horror, mate.
Sure. Yeah.
And he does say, Mark Commode here, he's a bit harsh on Megan Fox, because he says the best thing Megan Fox has done and maybe ever will do.
Jesus.
He's very harsh there. So there is this perception of Megan Fox, which has been perpetuated by the media at the time. And Commode is sort of buying into that, although he doesn't necessarily agree wholeheartedly with what everyone else is saying. He says, obviously, Diablo Cody understands her horror references, but he said it wasn't scary enough for him. He said it was well-written, fun, an enjoyable romp with its heart in the right place. That's how Mark Commode...
See, the comment of not scary enough is just being badly primed for the movie and not knowing what kind of movie you're going to see. Because nobody goes to see a Tim Burton movie to be scared. And it's more in common with those kind of dark comedies than it is a full-blown horror, than it is Prom Night, for example, to name one of the ones he mentioned. Yeah.
And I think he may have lost that subtlety within the idea of the marketing at the time. The whole idea of it was presented for teenage boys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily that I agree with that, because if it was marketed as a straight horror movie, which it wasn't, then I would agree with that. But like, I think that like, it not being scary enough, he's really just saying it's taste. Like, it's his taste. It just wasn't scary enough for him. Like Ginger Snaps, for example, is definitely
much more of a horror,
of a straight horror film,
Yeah.
and that might just play into his personal taste. Like it plays it to my personal taste better.
Yeah, I mean, he could
Like-
subconsciously be comparing it to Ginger Snaps.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It just tastes, I think.
Overall, at that time, the film got critically panned, and it was, well, critically and commercially didn't do the best, and it's the marketing just let it down entirely.
It's all down to the marketing, surely.
And I bet the budget for the marketing was massive as well. Like, because I remember lots of adverts for it.
I remember, it took me a lot of years to watch it, probably because I'd heard it was bad. But I remember it being somewhat everywhere. I knew its name.
Like on buses and stuff. Like, yeah.
So you go $16 million US.
Bloody hell.
And it made $32 million with its budget, which obviously
That's like nothing.
break even,
that's nothing
basically.
because of the
With
marketing budget
marketing,
doubles it basically. So it won't have made any money at the time. And in that interview, they say, well, we went through it all. They had to have therapy for it. You know, that's how badly they felt after it. And it's something that happened with the effects on the cast and the crew. So Adam Brody, there's one he did last year for IndieWire. And he said to have it receive such tepid reviews and in a way to be a punching bag felt shitty. It wasn't my movie, so I didn't take the brunt of it, but it still felt a little unjust. He continued that the marketing couldn't have missed the mark harder. The film was a marketing person's dream, and then to see them do that with the poster, that's basically it. That's what he says. And he says it's not even anything she wears in the movie, which is true. The front cover, I noticed, she doesn't wear that. She doesn't wear that.
I didn't actually know she was a cheerleader until I read the description of the film.
Yeah, the uniform's so different in a cheerleader uniform.
And again, it's part of that marketing about the film being for a male audience, a specific age group of men.
Just grabbing what they can find about the plot or even stuff that isn't in the plot and using it to enhance
they just literally made her a poster girl and just ran with it.
Yeah.
What I found interesting, I think you said earlier, Priya, about Fox being the right person for that role, right?
Yeah.
So, but the only issue with her being in that role is it brings the baggage of Megan Fox along with it. It brings the person, like she says, lead star Fox said earlier that Jennifer's body never really stood a chance due to her image at the time following the Transformers fame. It's not her fault. I'm not saying it's her fault.
I can see where he's coming from, but if it's marketed properly, that wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have actually.
They could have done damage control.
They could have used it actually, but then if they marketed
those
it
words are
correctly-
actually from Megan Fox, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry. Yeah. That's what she said. But
maybe she didn't see it that way then.
Yeah, but
you know,
it's just interesting, isn't it? How with Megan Fox does come. Sorry, I've gone wired. I'm wrapped in wires.
Well, it's a tale as old as time, or as old as media anyway, because I'm about to say media illiteracy being rife and people comparing it to what they want it to be rather than, taking it for what it is and evaluating it on its own merits. If you go in because Megan Fox is in it and you think she's sexy, that's what you're going to be looking for. And for some reason, people think if it's not that, when I wanted it to be that, then it's bad.
But it doesn't matter if you're seeing it because Megan Fox is in it. I want to see Fantastic Four because Pedro Pascal's in it. Do you know what I mean?
But you have the media literary skills to know whether it's a good or bad movie.
They could have just literally done anything other than just be like, we're going to objectify you. Sorry. We're going to objectify you. They could have done anything. It does annoy me how they literally typecast her in the worst way.
Yeah, I think it's quite sad in a way to hear Megan Fox say that, because I don't really agree that that's true. If the film was marketed appropriately, then, personally, I actually may have been more inclined to watch it if the marketing played against her type. I would have found that really interesting potentially, right? And other people might have as well. It's exactly what you said, Mike, about media literacy and about setting expectations. And it depends on the individual as well. There are most people, if they're pretty casual watchers that have a pretty loose idea of what they want. They want to go see a movie because Megan Fox is in it.
Yeah,
and she's hot, and I want her to be hot, and that's all I want. And then when something doesn't deliver on that, they're very angry. They review bomb it or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then the bad word of mouth spreads. it's possible to go in with incorrect expectations, but then still enjoy what you get. I think that I think that actually takes a bit of practice to be able to do that. But really what you need to do, it's the responsibility of the marketing people to set those expectations for people, right?
Yeah, definitely. And without any help from the marketing department, it's going to be a tough sell for people when they've been primed not by themselves completely, but also by the marketing to want to see one particular kind of movie, and it's not that. Yeah.
And you're not going to get the intended audience.
No.
Either. They're not going to come through the door at all, because the people going are going to say it's shit. And then the people it should be for teenage girls and probably anyone part of the LGBT community, that sort of area, they're not going to go and see it, because they think it's Megan Fox, just her and her body.
Yeah.
Literally, Jennifer's body becomes about Megan Fox showing her body. It becomes way more literal than it should be in that sense. I mean, I was somewhat nervous about doing this film before. It missed me completely at the time. I
didn't see it.
I didn't see it. I didn't really know about it. I didn't know about its resurgence until you two started talking about it. So I was interested to see it. But when I looked at even the Blu-ray, I look at the Blu-ray cover and the synopsis on that, I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to watch? Are we going to watch some terribly dated movie where it's just all like, it's like, tits everywhere, your ass, and like the Michael Bay camera. I just thought we were going to watch some horribly aged teenage boy movie, and I was really nervous to be doing that.
It's like the opposite effect for you, basically. Like, you wouldn't have seen it if it was you in 2009 as you are now. Then
I wouldn't have watched it then. I wouldn't. Like, don't get me wrong, Megan Fox is incredibly attractive woman. There's no doubting that, right?
She is. She's stunning. They didn't need to.
But it doesn't. But the idea of the film like that doesn't. It's. Yeah, I wouldn't watch it now, even with this all and that.
It's just the stupidity of the marketing, like Megan Fox hot. Like, So you didn't need to do that then, did you? Because we all know she's hot. We'd have gone to see it.
Yeah.
I
mean, who pays these people? Who hires these people? What's wrong with the industry at the time, and presumably still is to a certain extent now? Like, why?
I don't know.
And it's interesting. It is a microcosm of that time period, and now when what's happened since, what Megan Fox would have had to contend with, and every other female in Hollywood would have been the likes of your Harvey Weinsteins, and the people covering for people like that. And Harvey Weinstein is probably one of many. There's no way on earth Harvey Weinstein.
He's the only one that got caught.
He's the only one got caught. He's become like the fall guy for the rest of Hollywood. It's like, oh yeah, we cut out the cancer there. When actually,
no, there's more.
There's a lot more going on.
Yeah, it's already scapegoat, sacrificial lamb, etc. It's going to be a much deeper rooted issue than that. But someone takes the fall, things cool off. It's the tried and tested method of a horrible
And of
industry.
Course, then came the Me Too movement, and this is where the resurgence of this film really started gaining traction in this time frame.
I quite love that if you go on Letterboxd and you click on like an actor's profile, it immediately shows their movies in order of popularity, i.e. number of votes, and this is the highest, higher than Transformers.
Is it?
It's not true on IMDb, but on Letterboxd it is, which is used by a lot more young people, and that makes me happy. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
What do you make of the resurgence of it then, Priya? From what we read and the context of the time and to now?
I get it. I feel like I don't know if it's a different kind of marketing, but something must have brought it back around. A different kind of promotion, I guess, to bring it to somebody's attention.
Yeah, how did that come about?
I don't know how that came about. Do you know?
No, I was going to ask you because I was really interested. It must have just sat
grassroots.
It must have just sat in somebody's brain, you know.
But I don't know if it's like, Instagram Reels where there's just clips of random things.
It's one of those movies that probably did have some people go and see it, and some people that understood it for what it was and liked it. And
just like a small minority.
So basically,
were championing it the whole time. Probably.
And through that, it becomes a cult film.
Yeah.
And when cult films are exposed to the internet, that cult grows.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's grown enough to be in the mainstream now.
Because the 10-year anniversary of the film would have
2019. So COVID, maybe. afterwards.
I was just wondering, like, when the resurgence happened, because like 2019 would have been like the height of Me Too, right? Because that was before COVID.
I think it was resurging much before that, but it probably got an extra boost from.
Well, I was wondering,
discourse around that.
I was wondering if it got like a theatrical re-release for the 10 years or something, and maybe people were watching it. Although,
I wouldn't know. I know that there's a 2018 musical version.
Is
Oh, really?
Is there?
I didn't look into it too much, but yeah, according to
I want to do an
trivia,
episode on that, please.
It's an unofficial musical.
There's a graphic novel as well, apparently.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah,
they want to bring it back as a series. They were talking about it.
Yeah,
I would be very
Cody's
happy
wanted
about
to
that.
do that
Yeah.
for years.
Or just the sequel to the movie. I'd happily revisit the world
Yeah,
and revisit
I
the
would.
characters.
Needy's Buddy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not quite as catchy a title, but yeah.
So I was reading in research for this stuff, and there's an article here someone's done on like a blog website, and they watched it at the time, and it's called A Queer Girl's Guide to Jennifer's Body, and it's someone who themselves at the time, they were a 6th grader. They didn't know at the time, they didn't realise that they were a lesbian, and this film helped them come out in that way. And but they also say within that this person has only passively come out. Like it's like something that doesn't really get passed around publicly, but just something they do for friends. And when you've so it says, I've passively come out what feels like 100 times since then, but never publicly, and never like this. Only friends and strangers online know my most open secret. It says Jennifer, refreshingly bold, states that she goes both ways before attempting to eat her more than best friend Needy. She is explicit and blunt in her sexuality, 2 things I've never been. And that's the kind of, I think this is the kind of audience it's now reaching, right?
Yeah.
This is where the resurgence is someone who might have watched it at the time, and they say that this is the sort of film that they'll go back to. You know, this is a film when in a dark moment in their lives, it's a film that you can go back to, and it is a comfort movie too for people.
Yeah,
I've heard I've heard like had interesting takes on the 2 characters. So as you said at the beginning, Mike, that Diablo Cody said that like Jennifer was kind of her stage presence, right, in a way.
yeah, her like alter ego.
Yeah. So I've heard
because it's based on her, like, Diablo Cody isn't a real name.
Yeah,
right?
it's a stage name.
Her stage name is her persona.
Yeah. But I've heard also, you know, that Jennifer and Needy represent like different types of queer women. And I've also heard that they represent different types of feminism as well, which is interesting. Like, you know, more like kind of like militant versus passive and conservative and this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I like this one I'm reading here as well, which is a website that Gaily Dreadful, bursting out of your closet, which is it's kind of got the Jason mask, so it's like a horror, a gay horror thing. And she says in here that the fact that both the protagonist and the antagonist were beautiful, strong, unique women dealing with the occult and demons helped to skyrocket Jennifer's Body to one of my top 3 favorite horror films. But it wasn't just the strong female representation or horror elements that had such an impact on me. It was the sexuality of the film. And they say, reaches boiling point. As someone who was confused about my sexuality, those scenes really affected me. Jennifer and Needy's kiss was the first kiss between women I had seen in a movie that wasn't a joke. The close-up framing of their mouths and the lack of music made the kiss feel intimate and personal. Then goes to say, I've heard several men complain about the makeout scene. It usually boils down to the fact they feel like the scene doesn't satisfy their desire for girl-on-girl action.
They're not wrong.
People like that are the reason that it was reevaluated. Because if you feel a personal connection to a movie and you feel like it's an important movie for you personally, you're going to shout about it. And if you've got the internet, you can shout loud enough for more people to watch it, and they might watch it and feel personally connected to it again. I think that's the reason it's researched.
And I'll just give a shout out to Magical Goo Jelly for that one. Thank you, Magical Goo Jelly.
Kind of gives it the feel that it was released at the wrong time.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's before its time in a way.
Yeah.
I see a lot of comments online by women saying this is way before its time. I watched it at the time. I loved it.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really a true voice for women in especially in horror films from a female perspective of horror films.
Few and
right?
far between,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, I mean, you get the odd one in a lot of the decades 60s onwards, but a female
That's the
voice
point.
wasn't strong and it wasn't
It's
prevalent.
the odd one,
and
right?
yeah, exactly. It was there, but it wasn't at the forefront. It wasn't something that you could.
Maybe it was never necessarily then a critical reevaluation. Maybe like the same people that liked it always liked it, but now the demographics of people that have public connections has changed.
And yeah,
So it's not just like men like writing reviews. It's
Yeah,
not
the
just
media
men.
has definitely changed.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like a grassroots marketing campaign in a way.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you
Sorry.
hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, you can hear me.
yeah. What do you make of that then, Priya? What's your take
What, on the
this-
marketing
on the
of it?
marketing and how how it resonates today?
It definitely way ahead of its time. Probably because I've heard some films can get released years later. Probably a move they should have gone for.
Yeah,
But
If this was released literally
Yeah.
5-6 years later, it would have been.
it would definitely would have
A much
made a
better
more of an
reception.
impact. But
Yeah.
well, yeah, for them, you live and learn. It had to happen that way. It had to have a few hits and then get its credit now.
Yeah.
Did you see the female empowerment side of this film? What was your take on that idea of female empowerment and feminism?
I did see strong female characters for sure, in two very different ways. Because there's no one way a woman can be strong. So, and I think that's why there was often a clash between the two of them because they were such strong characters. But yeah, I don't know if they were to remake it. I definitely think there would be a way to rewrite them to be stronger. But I don't know. Maybe it's because they'd be older. I don't know if they set it more to the modern day. I would love to see a remake of it or a sequel for sure.
Or a TV show, Netflix.
Yes, 100%.
It's so I spoke to a friend as well. I put it up on Instagram, and one of my friends reached out. So big shout out to Siege as well, who says here when she did some voice notes to me, said it's hard not to support her on her murdering endeavors. The band takes her thinking she is a virgin, and it's like a commentary on female commodity, on sexual assault at the time.
Yeah, and male entitlement, right? Yeah.
And it's interesting. So it's akin to how men are obsessed with virginity and purity in women, and how this backfires when a woman isn't pure. She's saying getting Medusa vibes and says, "Damn right, girl, get your revenge."
Yes. Yeah. I didn't see it like that. They've hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah. She disagrees with you on
Okay, go on.
on the cute goth boyfriend who dies, and he's the only one who got
What's
hurt.
her
You didn't
beef with
deserve
Colin?
it.
Come on, let's hear it.
No. Oh, sorry, the actual boyfriend. What's his name?
Chip.
Chip. Sorry, yeah.
She doesn't like Chip.
No. She disagrees with you on Chip. The fact that she really likes Chip, saying he really didn't deserve it. He said he was such a cute boy.
He didn't deserve to die. I will give her that.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say anyone deserves to die. Yeah.
The band deserved to die. Megan was after the wrong one. Jennifer, yeah.
And she says, what do you think of the lighter on the tongue?
That creeped me out.
Did
Like,
it?
what the
It's a definite
I
iconic
was like,
scene. Yeah.
okay.
She's talking about female empowerment with that, like
It just seemed so
strong.
random to me. I was
Yeah.
like, what are you doing?
It's become
I
a
know
huge
I know
meme, though, hasn't it?
Yeah,
In GIF,
I know
like-
we do things when we're bored on the phone, but like you brush your hair or you chew on like an eyeliner or something.
You're telling me
get a lighter and stick it on.
you're telling me you wouldn't do that if you could?
No, I mean in science with the finger in the Bunsen burner.
Yeah,
we're
see,
like,
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
It's only
Not
2
your
steps away from the tongue.
You want to whip your tongue out across if you
no,
could?
no.
Anything that's less dangerous, the tongue's pretty wet, right? So you just get a little
It
sizzle. It's like when you
regenerates.
put-
It regenerates.
Singed. Did you not see it singe?
Yeah, she left it there a little long. Yeah.
Well, have you not? It's all magic trick. Have you not been to Haven and seen the guy at Haven Holidays like eating the fire? It's just normal,
No, my
right?
mum and dad
Yeah,
never took
yeah.
me to Haven.
Oh, where did you go? Park Dean?
Well, they blew the money on Disneyland, so it's
Ooh.
yeah.
Fancy,
And then we didn't have a
fancy.
holiday for like
posh.
7 years.
Yeah, it's a lot better than Rory the Tiger.
I'll take
and
you to
that
West-
shit.
I'll take you to West Park, get you a 99. That was it.
Mike, never disparage the name of Rory the Tiger. And
Rory.
greedy. Oh,
Don't even
oh,
remember the others, so they're even
you're banned
lamer.
from Haven.
Yeah, West Park's better, man.
Oh,
Oh, mate. Have you been?
no.
Have you been?
No, I did Butlins, but that's all I've done.
He's posh.
Not West Park. You didn't do the fairground in
Butlins
West
is posh.
Park.
Don't think so. No.
You have to take them, Mike.
Well, I don't know whether it would be that
champion
fun
of West Park now. So you've never spoken about West Park before.
You're not
what the
from
hell are you talking?
Wolverhampton, so why would I ever talk about West Park with you? Do you talk about the parks near you?
Gullivolt.
Yeah, come on to Gulliver.
Well, you've never mentioned
World War
that.
I've taken you there.
See,
Have you?
What?
Yeah, sure.
You took me to the park.
Yeah.
Jennifer and Needy, basically.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we did
Male.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take me to the part, Mike.
Now you're adding like a
Should we leave the
seedy
room?
angle.
Shall we?
to it.
Yeah, shall we leave the
You're
room?
making it very seedy.
Needy's making it seedy. Sorry.
Yeah. It's the X-rated cut and it's seedy instead of needy. Yeah.
I reckon there are some really empowering moments within this film, though, along the way, where she said, use the breasts as like the weapon on a woman.
yeah.
Like men will just fall
but
victim to that.
it's quite a sad moment. I'm probably speaking as a woman's perspective. Quite a sad moment that how that was the conditioning. Like, we use our bodies to get what we want. We shouldn't have to.
yeah.
Quite sad. And it was quite sad seeing a 16-year-old saying that. But I get the empowerment, like the strength in her voice. Like, I
Yeah.
get the female empowerment in that.
It's interesting that you say that because she knows she can use it as a weapon, but really, if we were in an equal society, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have to do that in the first
Yeah,
place.
that's the reality of it. So she's been conditioned to think that's the normal. It's not. And that's where you see the two different styles of feminism in them.
yeah.
Like like Needy had the security, Jennifer didn't. It's quite obvious there. Even though if you look at both their houses, Needy didn't have everything, Jennifer did.
Yeah.
And it's quite a juxtaposition, really, when you look at it. Like, it's like smoke and mirrors. You can look like you have everything, but you're so far behind.
What do you mean by had everything? You mean like the house was nicer?
I feel like there was like symbolism with the house, like Needy.
Yeah, we didn't see a lot of it, but she's got a
Didn't.
much nicer bedroom. I think we saw.
What, Jennifer?
Yeah,
Oh,
like it was
Yeah.
brighter, so it looked like Jennifer had everything. That's why she was popular. But when you see Jennifer's attitude and like use your body as a weapon, but Needy never had that attitude, so it was like there was a different level of security that Needy had that Jennifer kind of fed off through Needy because she didn't have that at home.
Yeah. They're definitely both influenced by their backgrounds.
Yeah,
As we don't know a lot about Jennifer's, we're left to like kind of interpret it. Because we did that before as well with the fact that maybe your parents aren't around a lot as well.
yeah,
And yeah. But I think it's great that that's why I'd have possibly preferred it if Needy's mom wasn't around, because that would add to the interpretational nature of how the backgrounds of them led them to be so close and how it affected their stances as women, as how they interact with men. Yeah.
Do you reckon, Priya, when the idea of them talking as friends, there's some lines that stood out to me with where she says, well, she's obviously not a virgin because the way she says she's had anal sex with her boyfriend and stuff.
She's not even a butt virgin, mate.
No, not a butt virgin. That's the line for it. She's not even a butt virgin. But the idea to me is that they take lines that if a man wrote that, it would be much more of a sexual innuendo. It'd be very sexual. Where she says it, it's kind of like blunt and real. Is there something with the language that you saw in this movie at all, with being from a female writer? Was it a bit different to if, say, a man had written it?
I think it was showing how this is how I've taken it, how normalized it is to unintentionally over-sexualize yourself. And that's just the conditioning from men, but we don't acknowledge it.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Yeah.
Because she just said it so flippantly. Like, you called it blunt,
Yeah.
but it's just flippantly. That's just how we're wired. And we're having to retrain our brains now.
But she is the kind of outspoken side of feminism. Could be doing it intentionally, right?
That's true, but you need to remember their age. They're 16.
Yeah.
So they're not. They're played by women. So I can see where you're coming from. But like,
yeah, but
I'm
talking about if you're taking the full thing as kind of a metaphor and kind of taking it as the way Diablo Cody wrote it as kind of two sides of herself to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
I
the
don't
ages
know. I think
necessarily
for
matter so
me,
much in some of the
I don't know. I
interpretations.
don't know if I look for it or I spot like hidden meanings in things. I tend to read between the lines quite a lot, and I probably don't need to half the time. So that's
I think it's
where
good.
I
I
got
think,
there.
Yeah,
with this film,
Yeah.
it's good. Yeah, for sure.
This is a definite interpretational
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Do you reckon when we wouldn't know, because when women are together and they're talking about these things, they must talk about it a bit differently to if it was in front of a man. So is there any differences in the sort of language they use when they're talking to each other, or when they're on the bed together or anything, or is it very?
I don't know. I feel like there's less of an act when they're there together, just the two of them, because it felt like they were always having to put up a front in front of a guy in various ways. That's what I got.
Yeah, that's definitely Jennifer's character to a T, isn't it? She's kind of acting, especially when she first talks to the front man of the band. She's like, even for her, like overly kind of ditzy and playing like the stupid role kind of thing. So she's definitely in a public setting or around men changing her behavior. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Needy doesn't so much. Yeah.
No.
Did you find like the private conversations between Needy and Jennifer to be kind of authentic to like how women talk to each other?
Yeah, the dynamic fit quite well because, like I said, there was that sense of security between the two of them. There wasn't that much of a power play between them until there was a guy around. I noticed sometimes like Jennifer would be like trying to get I don't know if it's the upper hand or just have the attention on her. Yeah.
There's that lovely moment where they hold hands while watching the band, and for a moment they're connected, they're together.
Yeah.
Before Jennifer then puts her attention back on the lead singer.
I felt like that just showed the innocence of the two of them quite well.
And that there is
and
a
that
real
they need each other
connection.
and that they are connected to. I think that might have been the start, like to say they're connected to each other, and then it links to Needy seeing all those things happening to Jennifer.
Yeah,
kind of like a subtle symbolism thing there.
Mm.
Do you think for a second there that like Jennifer's like guard dropped and she let herself be vulnerable with Needy, and then she's like, oh wait, I'm supposed to be trying to like focusing on this guy, I'm trying to get with this guy, I need to be cool.
But actually there's a genuine real connection between those two, which in a way they don't want to
acknowledge.
Yeah, they don't want to acknowledge maybe their synergy as a pair.
I haven't thought about that. Good question though.
Yeah. Well, it's all left up in the air. It's all we'll take something completely different out of the movie when we watch it.
It's somewhat like it's Jennifer that pulls her hands away. Or
it's Needy, I think.
Needy does.
Yeah, it is Needy. Yeah.
So if it is Needy, it's kind of like a precursor to later on in the movie when they kiss, right?
Yeah, like she's not ready.
There's a kind of fear of intimacy with this person.
Well, Needy
and she
notices
she's there
though
for a bit.
Yeah,
but then she pulls away. Yeah,
but Needy notices the attention going back to the way of the lead singer. For a second, they are connected as a pair. There's this moment, and Needy looks around again and goes, "Oh, her attention's back over there," and she doesn't even really care when she takes her hand away. She's just like so infatuated by this lead singer. As well. It depends how you.
So it's you think it might be, you'd interpret it as like an element of jealousy or maybe
potentially
kind of disgust that she's being used just as a.
Yeah, or I feel like there is a genuine
before she
moment.
goes and meets the man.
Yeah, because they hold hands almost at the same time. It's very natural. It's a natural fit,
like an instinctive thing.
It's instinctive for them both, and they. Yeah, it's just a very instinctive moment between the two of them, and then they're connected for a split second in the middle of this room where there's a band playing, and they're enjoying it together. There's no ulterior motive in one moment between them, and there's this love and affection for each other.
Yeah, and maybe they feel as if, like subconsciously, it's like they're kids again, right? And they're best friends, and kids will hold hands, and they'll
absolutely.
Yeah, that could easily be it.
Yeah.
Or it could, that they're safest with each other, and then it all goes wrong when they're not.
Yeah, this
takes
is true.
us to another arc of the film.
Yeah, we definitely go on a darker turn the second that they're first shown to be explicitly not with each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all Needy's fault then for pulling her hand away.
Yeah.
She dooms Jennifer.
Set her on a dark path. Yeah.
She shouldn't have got in the van.
No, but she was in complete shock. Though,
No, but at the same time,
Needy could have really fought though, but then she might have been in shock. So
it's neither of
Can't-
their fault.
yeah,
though.
we
It's
can't
the
really
men's
blame them.
fault.
Yeah.
But it's a very comedic take on what men do in those situations, right? It's so blatant and blunt and comedic that it's like
it was a nice balance of light and shade in that little moment. Yeah.
it is, but it's almost showing what men do very,
they take
very
advantage quite
bluntly.
quickly.
But
well, not all men, I should say that.
but
We can generalise.
Yeah.
but I reckon there's this idea that men think they're really clever when they're doing this and they're getting away with it, and they're very subtle. But it's so the opposite of that.
Yeah.
That it is comedic, but it's also what certain men do in those situations. They aren't subtle. They'll just try and get a
take
girl in
what
a
they
van.
want.
Yeah.
100%.
And because of the way society is built, oftentimes they don't have to have like an act. They'll just do it.
Yeah.
And they'll get away.
Yeah, he's so
with it.
blatantly doing it.
Yeah.
It's like it's nothing to him. It almost
Like
seems
he's so used to doing
yeah,
it.
it seems like he's half-assing it, to be honest. He's like, oh, you just have this drink, and then he just shoves it in, but it's just like nothing.
Yeah,
like
it's
he's
almost
barely
as if
even
he did it yesterday.
paying
and the day
attention.
before.
Yeah,
And then the
yeah.
next day, the media love them. They love him. They're
Yeah.
like, they were heroes. They
Yeah.
helped so many people. And it's like the sacrifice works in that scenario. But in the real life, men are sometimes given the credit for something when they don't deserve it
No,
just because of how our society is built. And it's like a commentary.
Yeah,
on
it's like
that.
when she argues with the other woman in the class, right? When she says the other woman says they're American heroes and basically calls her a liar for saying that they're
I
not.
thought that's how she was going to get put into prison. Into a massive fight.
disparaging
Yeah.
the band. Yeah.
All right, let's just finish up with the this side of things, and I just want to briefly go into the idea of all these guys in this moment in the school, and they say it quite frankly, in that everyone is sad. There's like a whole month of mourning. No one's quite right, but Jennifer is able to use her like ability as an attractive woman to be able to get past all of that, and they actually just they are
You're talking about the gender flip, right?
yes, she's able to
It's the men who are in vulnerable states when they're
the men are in
approached
vulnerable states
by the woman with all of the power in the situation
That's
who has
it.
a clear mind. Yeah.
but they're so taken aback by her that they carry on with it. They don't see any of the red flags that happen in that situation. They're taken into the woods like the football star guy whose best friend had died
Yeah, I think as
Was
it
it
goes...
his brother?
in the fire.
It was his friend, I think.
Yeah.
Did anybody else get the vibe that that guy was supposed to be gay?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's like a subtle
Yeah.
hint towards that, that isn't really built upon. But yeah.
And then we got Colin, your favourite character.
Oh, Colin.
Who, although he's in this really dreadful neighborhood, and he's still drawn in by
Yeah.
Jennifer, and the idea, it's almost for me a play on Megan Fox in general. Like,
Yeah. Also playing on the fact that it's somebody they trust. Why would they not go there with her?
but
Or
we
go
know,
anywhere with
but we
her.
know that on the other way round,
Yeah.
that happens to women all the
To
time.
a certain extent, it
Yeah.
might be because they're male, so they feel less threatened by
A female.
Jennifer
Yeah.
than they if it was the usual genders. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you flip the genders. It's not happening, right? Like
No.
every single red flag goes off. Like no woman.
Yeah,
is going
their
into any of those
presumption is that
situations.
they're
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah, yeah,
because they're
yeah.
men,
Yeah,
and the world is a lot safer for a man.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, with the context we have now on the film and everything we've talked about, just a few final thoughts from us all. So, Dave, why don't you go first? What do you make of what we've discussed and what's coming out of and the resurgence of the film?
As I said at the beginning, I find like the writing. I agree with Mike that the writing is a strength. I think that there's a lot to dissect. That there's a lot of themes, and I wouldn't call it ambiguity, but there's multiple readings for everything, which makes the film
interpretation.
Yeah. which makes the film very fun to analyze and talk about. I could not be happier that it found its audience. And actually, I'm quite excited, to see if it happens again. To see if that there are other cult movies around, of course, but if any others will break out into the mainstream. Because you can't really predict when it's going to happen, right? So I'm quite excited to see what turns up. I do. For me, like, the film doesn't quite come together, but that's just down to my taste. I would prefer it to be a little bit scarier, just for that's just my personal taste.
Like Mark Commode.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with what he was saying. And for me, it was a taste thing, which is why I thought for him it might be a taste thing as well.
But for example, Heathers is kind of a dark comedy / horror. That's not scary at all. Set in a high school, Winona Ryder's boyfriend is committing murders.
Yeah,
I think there's very similar themes there, and that's full dark comedy.
I find
Heathers.
I think I find Heathers to be more of a consistent tone throughout.
Right. Because this has elements of horror, pure horror in little snippets.
Yeah,
you judge it as a horror movie more.
Yeah, I think so. Some of the comedy really works for me in Jennifer's Body, like the black comedy I really like.
Yeah,
like I said, the banter between the band, like during the sacrifice scene, is like darkly hilarious. I find it really funny, and then it just reinforces the horror. That works really well for me. Some of the other comedy doesn't quite land. I like Diablo Cody, actually. I like her writing style. I love Juno, and I also loved Lisa Frankenstein, which came out.
Yeah, I love Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah, really good.
Great.
I prefer. Yeah. It's apparently set in the same universe as this. I prefer
because of names on gravestones or something.
Oh, yeah, I don't know why. Yeah. I preferred that to Jennifer's Body as well. I think I found that to be slightly more consistent overall.
I think arguably, I'd say that's a better movie. Well, I think, in my opinion, I might say Lisa Frankenstein is a better movie. But not to the detriment of this movie. I think this is also great.
I think the one other thing to bring up, actually, just before we finish as well, is that there is a theatrical cut and an extended cut of the movie.
Is there?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was an extended.
Know that.
Yeah, so I watched the extended cut. So I watched the extended cut. I would assume the version that is available online is probably the theatrical cut, and the extended cut has just the comedy lands better. There's actually, although there's only about 4 minutes added to the film in general, the scenes are given a bit more. There's 60 cuts within that or so. So there's a lot.
So they probably cut out some links that are quite important for certain things.
And a lot of the comedy lands better within the extended cut as well, because it's not so abrupt, it's not so bizarre.
Right.
And so if you are going to watch it, I would say it's worth looking at the extended cut. It allows things to breathe a little bit more, and it's more of the director's vision.
Yeah, I'd say as a general rule, it's always worth.
And it's unrated as well, so the idea that it's an unrated cut, so there's more gore.
Especially if it's called unrated.
Yeah,
I love those immediately. Yeah.
So that might rectify some of the issues you have with the idea of it not being.
Might get a bit more visceral.
Yeah, it's very possible.
I'm on the same page with you as it's not as scary, because like the films that stick with me, like The Shining, The Conjuring, Sixth Sense, like sometimes they're not scary, but it gets you thinking, it gets you glued to your seat. Whereas that didn't, but maybe with the cuts. Like in there, no, that makes no sense. The extended cut version,
I mean, I couldn't tell you which version I watched, to be honest with you. I hope then, based on what you're saying, that it was the theatrical cut that I ended up watching. I watched whatever version was on Disney Plus.
As did I. Yeah.
Oh, I rented it on Amazon Prime. It was Joe that told me days later it was free on Disney Plus. I'm like, wow, thanks.
Joe.
No, sorry.
But I mean, it's my personal taste that I would like it a little bit scarier. But I just think, like, as a piece of text, like something to analyze, there's a lot to it, and I would recommend it to anybody to watch. And it's it's watching it and especially kind of reading around and hearing like interviews and then kind of like video reviews. I've learned a lot as well. Because I mean, I have my perspective through life, which is different from the perspectives really that this film is talking about.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've learned a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those
Just because,
movies, like a lot of movies we've covered in this podcast, where there's a whole heap of interesting stuff surrounding the movie as much as there is in the movie.
I think that's important for this movie because you've got to base it in the context of who Megan Fox was in the time to know about why it was reviewed so badly.
Yeah.
You need to know the state of social affairs in America and the Western society to know how things were done, how it was so male-dominated. And it still is, really, but that's
and
on
and
the
those
move.
things are an influence on what happens in the movie as well, and some of the artistic choices they made in the movie. Yeah. But I think I'd have the opposite view. Obviously, I knew going in that this was a horror comedy or a dark comedy, and for that purpose, I wasn't looking to be scared. I was looking to be entertained, and it delivered on that wholeheartedly. And in general, I'd say I don't often get scared by horror films, so I think I am looking predominantly to be more entertained more than anything else. Unless it's a particularly arty film, then you're somewhat forced to look past entertainment and look for artistic value or directorship quality, acting quality, etc. But regardless, I think it's very fun. It's relatively short, snappy movie. The writing is brilliant and quotable, and I've only seen this movie twice, but I feel like if I watched this movie 6 times, I'd want to be using those quotes in an everyday scenario. Megan Fox's performance is great. I've already said I like the 2000s in us. Yeah, I just think it's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Croaky old Joe.
Is it quit smoking?
It's like years ago.
Shouldn't have had all that whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon in the same way as you, Mike, that I loved, as I said at the beginning, the idea of this film taking me back in time a bit. It gives me that nostalgia vibe, which is probably part of the idea of it being popular now too, because we're all very nostalgic for the past. Look how well things do. Look at all sequels and things.
We haven't fully moved on to the 2000s. We're still slap bang in the like 90s kind of throwback. But sooner or later we'll get to the 2000s and it might even have a secondary resurgence because it is so powerfully 2000s. Over the top, I feel like, with some of the characters chosen and decisions made.
And something else I feel like I wanted to do coming into this as well is somewhat give a bit of just give back to the idea that Megan Fox isn't just this object, that there is an actor in there that she hasn't always been given the opportunity to shine because of how the American system works and Hollywood works.
There's still time. Hopefully the resurgence becomes strong enough.
Well, there's a new movie this year. She's in a new movie soon, isn't she? Subservience. So it's a new movie called Subservience. It's a thriller sci-fi, apparently.
Is she in it?
Cool.
Not got very good reviews so far.
Yeah, but how many
It follows a struggling father who purchases a domestic sim to help care for house and family, unaware she will gain awareness and turn deadly. So it's like an AI type thing. Being released. So that's happening a lot actually at the moment.
Yeah, I'd be down to watch that. I mean, there's that one that you mentioned.
Till Death. I really want to see that.
I haven't seen. It's supposed to be like Gerald's Game-esque.
Yeah, I think she's
Megan
like
Fox.
she's like tied to her husband and has to escape.
Oh, I've seen that. She's brilliant in that.
Oh, right.
She is
I heard,
phenomenal in that.
I really want to see that.
I do want to see that, yeah.
It was so raw. I rarely say that about actors, but her performance was so raw, so real. You rarely watch an actor and not think they're acting. She was
fully believable.
Oh
like
my
she,
God.
you
I
believed
love
she
her
was
in that.
Wow.
I actually,
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want
Would
to
you say
watch that.
Watch
you preferred
it.
that movie to this movie? Then?
yes.
Yeah,
If you talk about that
interesting.
movie, I will definitely be back.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, great.
You're like a Megan Fox consultant.
Yeah.
Yeah, she honestly, her performance is so brilliant in that because it really breaks away. I forgot it was her because she breaks away from that stereotype, obviously from the poor marketing of this film that we're talking about today. But yeah,
Yeah, sounds great. I'd love to
God.
visit that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, as you say, I want to bring a bit of sort of justice for this film as well, and just the more I research it, looking at that stuff from 2009, it's quite shocking what you're able to get away with, and it does show how easily it was to get away with being like that then. And we all move forward from those times. And I remember like being in that era. It's no wonder we are like we are sometimes when you see something with Jimmy Kimmel like that.
Oh, yeah.
And you see how inappropriate things are sometimes because we've never actually been taught not to be doing that. In fact, the people in the media are up there in such a high pedestal that to be successful, you need to be like that. You need to be this creep. And I'm glad this film is finding this new audience in a positive light, that things are changing in the Hollywood system as well. And that, we're finding finally a film that was unjustly panned at the time is finding that audience. And I hope that we, in only very, very small part, can be part of the idea that actually it's much deeper and it's not just a teen slasher thing. There's more to it, deeper.
I think it's probably made a resurgence because it's so much more relevant now. There's like, if you really dissect it, look at the finer details, like the Me Too campaign, it links in with that. It links with everything that's going on in Hollywood now.
It really does. And it links in with queerness as well. And it links in with 100%. All of the... It links in the fact that now people are much more open. I think our generation are somewhat, just a little bit behind of like your Gen Z with how you deal with sexuality and stuff. And I think this movie does a really good job.
It's not afraid to talk about it.
It's not, no. And I think we're sometimes afraid to talk about this sort of stuff. So I'm glad that there's a movie out there that can sort of do this on the nose and actually was around in that time frame as well.
Yeah,
so
blazed the trail for the kind of movies we get now that are meta commentary about feminism and
so it's
a hidden treasure from 2009.
It is, and it's been uncovered. It's finally having its moment. And that just about brings us to the end, I guess, of this podcast. Thank you so much, Priya, for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
No worries. Have you enjoyed yourself?
I have. I meant what I said earlier. If you cover Till Death, I'm definitely coming back.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
Definitely.
Oh, good. Yeah. They're not acting either, guys.
They mean that.
They mean it.
What was the other one? I think, was it The Conjuring you also wanted to look at some point?
Yes, and The Shining and Sixth
and The Shining.
Sense.
Okay.
Shining.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Do you want to get sued?
Yeah, and The Sixth Sense as well.
Yeah.
Well, luckily we haven't covered any of those yet. So
yeah, we'll get you back.
Some of your favourites, I'd be happy.
I'll be spamming Joe with a load of film ideas.
But yeah, we'll bring you back some point in time. It's great to have you on board as well.
Thank you.
And as always, thanks to Dave and Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you to Joe also.
Yeah, cheers. Don't have to say it.
All right, I won't next time.
Okay. And just enough time to say, follow us on our social medias. It's _stab in the dark. That is for Instagram, Twitter /X as well on there. Follow us, comment on it. Let us know if we're shit.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Let us know specifically who's shit as well.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And also, join us on Discord. We've got a Discord community, so
Have you?
Yes, we do.
Oh,
so you can join up on that, and we can discuss horror movies. Mike is all over that stuff. That's his domain.
I don't know whether I am, but I could be. Yeah.
But he will be. He doesn't know. He does now.
Yes, he will be.
Mike's in charge of that.
Yeah. Hit me up with your wild takes, whatever. Yeah.
And let us know what you would like us to cover on the show as well. So if there's a film you want to see us cover, it can be anything from the history of horror. So just let us know, and we will take it into consideration and maybe do it. Not promising you everything. Anyway, cheers. Have a good one. See you later.
Cheers.
Goodbye.
Bye. Jesus Christ.
Oh my
Look
lord.
at your face is just quite funny. I try not to.
It's that time of the night where you go loopy.
Right, let's clap again.
Okay, let's do it one more time. Do you want to do it?
Okay. Dave, do you want to go?
Dave.
What am I going to do?
Should we just all do one?
Dave will clap it and the whole thing will come down.
Yeah, the mirror's going to fly across the room. Yeah.
Okay, I'm coming.
Okay.
Come on, one clap. You laugh immediately.
You went like...
It looks like you're trying to hit yourself in the face.
I don't have a lot of
Do it again,
space,
Dave.
so I'm like-
Mike.
The worst attempt.
He didn't even make it to a clap.
0 claps.
Yeah.
At least I got one
My
before I fucked it up.
preparation was flawed. Yeah. Oh no.
He's fucked the
I've
whole
messed
thing.
with the structural integrity.
Come on, Matt, you can do
Go
it.
on, have
Okay.
another
We're
go.
never gonna be able
Have
to-
another go.
I'm ready now.
Come on.
Oh, God.
Sorry. No, they were great. Sorry. Okay, go on. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that.
Why are you looking at him so lovingly?
I'm just repaying that adoration
Yeah,
from earlier. Yeah.
Let's just finish off with the fuck's sake.
It was a
There was a
chair.
creak up in there. Yeah.
This all needs to go in a video, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, just pause and then go.
Yeah.